And we are here with Charles Jewett from Sogo-Kaku and my favorite MMA podcast, Let's Talk JMMA with Shuharata. How's it going,
How you doing?
CJ?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Yes. I mean, things could be better. In
Yeah.
terms of the match, you'll get to watch it
Yeah.
live. I
Mhm.
won't, or will be harder for me, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Main question is, what are your thoughts are on the match finally happening? And be
Well,
honest.
my front caveat would be like I'm still not 100% sure it's going to happen. Like I'll believe the fight happens when it actually when they both get in the ring and the bell rings and the first punch lands. But it seems like this fight has been cursed with just bad news after bad news after bad news, which is unfortunate because the card itself is completely stacked. It is a dream of matchups that 2 years ago no one would have thought would be possible to see. Essentially what is a Rise versus K1 card.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, what is the significance of Takeru and Tenshin to you? Were you as much into? I know you're not too much into kickboxing, but were
Mhm.
you as entrenched as seeing these two eventually uh come to fight together?
Yeah, no, I'm very interested in it because it seemed like it wasn't going to happen for a while. You probably remember it looked like they weren't able to get a deal and Tenshin was going to go off to boxing, but then he postponed his debut in boxing and finally happened. When it was first announced, I thought this fight could realistically reach Kid Yamamoto versus Masato levels of media attention in Japan. Like Takeru has been such a staple for such a long time, and he's been such a huge deal, just almost single-handedly holding up the K1 brand. And Tenshin has had such a rapid rise and also brings in like a very young fan base from Rising and Rise from both those. So it's kind of a dream matchup.
Um, so who do you think wins, and how do you think the fight goes?
Well, I think a lot of the rules favor Tenshin. The weight of the fight, the length of the fight, all favor in his youth, all favor Tenshin. But Takeru, I can't count Takeru out. Something inside, and it's like a weird mixture of I haven't been super impressed with Tenshin recently, and Takeru is such a veteran that I gotta imagine Takeru is really going to go out there and try to knock him out.
Um, how do you think when that bell rings? Do you think they're gonna go right at it, or do you think they're gonna they might even not real they may be caught up in the moment that like, oh wait, this is actually happening between us.
I feel like they almost have to go right at it. It's what, 3 3-minute rounds?
Mm-hmm. And an
I mean,
extended around as well, if necessary.
there's no time for a feeling out process. I mean, if there is a feeling, if there is going to be a feeling out process, as a potential become kind of a boring fight because it'll be over before it gets started. And I don't think that's in their DNA. I think there's so much pride involved in this fight. The winner of this fight is going to be seen as the best kickboxer since Masato in Japan. And you can't leave anything on the table. I think they're going to go right at it. And I mean, if you get for the younger people out there, I know you and I did a podcast recently with a nuke who had never seen a Takeru fight. Go out there and watch Takeru versus Koji on YouTube. It's on the K1 channel. And you'll see that Takeru brings the heat. He tries to finish every single time. Tenshin may not always try to finish, but he tries to throw some flashy stuff and he can finish people. So I think it's the recipe for a very exciting fight.
We talked a little bit about off air, but what is the current atmosphere around this fight in Japan right now?
What I've noticed is unfortunately it's almost non-existent. This getting taken off Fuji TV, I think really killed a lot of the marketing for the fight. I think they were really planning and depending on Fuji TV to do a lot of promotion for the fight. And since it's not going to be on Fuji TV, that promotion is all gone. It seems like the other TV networks are kind of following suit and deciding to distance themselves from it. See almost no mention of it on TV. and a lot of major media sources aren't even following it that much. I mean, if you go to the Gong-Kaku website, the #1 martial arts website in Japan, there's more articles about road to UFC this week than the match, and the match is like a week away. I would expect, the way I was expecting this to happen was that June would be the match month, and every single day would just be new content, new stuff, just building and building and building to the biggest kickboxing match of the past 20 years. Instead, it's like just nothing is happening. I was talking to my wife today, who's super into combat sports. She said that Japanese Twitter is all about road to the UFC and the round girl stuff in Rizin. So not a lot of people are talking about it, unfortunately. And then I was looking at the Abima's Twitter page. I think Abima has close to 2 million followers, and their posts about the match were getting like 30 likes, like just not a lot of movement. Now, one of the bigger ones had several hundred, but even then, this is the biggest kickboxing match of the past. I mean, pick a year, like 10 years since Masato versus Kid. This is the biggest kickboxing match, a match that was thought to be impossible, and it is just not getting the attention that it deserves.
Do you think the day of that might change? I've always noticed with boxing, at least in America, I never hear about anybody talking about boxing or for most of the fights until like a day before or the day of. I think that might happen.
The problem is that Abima has a lot of viewers, but it's a very self-selecting group of viewers, if that makes sense. You have to have downloaded the app to have it. You have to be actively looking for Abima. If you're just a Japanese person who watches TV and doesn't have the Abima app, you're not going to know this fight is happening.
Well, I guess we'll get into Abima right now. You'll be watching it on Abima probably, I'm guessing.
Yes, I will.
Okay, you were not the person who bought the $30,000 ticket, whatever that price was.
No.
Okay. What do you think about this whole international distribution kerfuffle?
It's idiotic. Japan is an island, and as a result, they've historically had a very closed mind to the outside world, where they don't really think about, like historically, they don't really think about the outside world. They tend to think about themselves. And if you watch Japanese news or Japanese TV, that's very much the case. They don't really talk about stuff outside of Japan. It's very Japan focused, everything. And it just seems to me that they're just leaving money on the table that'd be so easily sought after, especially after you lose the Fuji TV deal. You'd think you'd be trying to explore other avenues to get money. And with places like Fight TV, was it Fight TV? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Fight TV, or just all the other streaming services, you got to think people would be interested in this match. I know kickboxing is very popular in Europe. I know that there's diehard fans in the US. There's people that want to watch this match, and say you get only 1,000 people watching it. That could be, but if you charge $30 a ticket, what, like $30,000. And I imagine more people would watch it than 1,000, just based off of the content. I mean, the response I'm seeing more foreigners complaining about not being able to watch the match than Japanese people talking about the match, is what my social media looks like. I mean, doesn't it seem incredibly closed-minded to you?
Oh, it is, but I'm kind of just, I'm over it. As at the point where, like, because it's a battle that we, stateside, we have fought since like Pride era, even I mean, I shouldn't even say Pride, because at least Pride, like it was you can watch on pay-per-view, and then when the Fight Channel, HDNet, whatever, that made things a lot easier. Actually, it's funny that things seemingly have gone worse, have gone backwards when there's opportunities to make it less. Like,
I know that you could watch Pride on DirecTV, right?
Yes.
And I know Canada had a channel where they used to show like
the Fight Network. The Fight Network.
The Fight Network in Canada used to show like Jules shows and deep shows back in the early 2000s, and not in the early 2000s, like 2010 era. But now it seems it's just like this weird isolation. Rising's no longer uploading their fights on YouTube. Maybe they're searching for a new streaming partner. What's the deal there? This match is only being shown on Abima, which Abima can do non-geo block shows. So they're purposely geo blocking this, which I don't understand at all. It just seems idiotic to me.
The other issue is that it's even if the show is geo, it's interesting that if you have a VPN and if a
Isn't
VPN
that not that's not a guarantee, right?
it's not, well, here what the issue is that so if I use my credit card to like buy something from Japan, I tried this with
Oh, they know it's not a Japanese credit. You have to have a Japanese address or a Japanese credit card.
Yes. And so that excludes like 90% of like anything if I want to buy directly from Japan. I forgot the kickboxing show. I tried to watch one kickboxing show and it said, this credit card is not registered in Japan or something. And I was just like, oh, well.
It seems counterintuitive because all these fighters, all their goals are to fight abroad. All these fighters want to fight abroad. They all want to go out in the world and win world championships. And how's that supposed to happen if you don't show your product outside of Japan?
Mm-hmm. Who do you think's to blame for this whole thing? Is it too many cooks in the kitchen? Is there one person or one entity, or is this just mentality that's to blame?
Unfortunately, I feel like you have to blame Sakakibara for almost every problem that's happened with the match.
You mean in terms of the Yakuza things and
yeah, well, just the whole article about the Mr. Y and the Mr. X just destroyed the Fuji TV deal. And I think that they were so busy hoping desperately get back on the Fuji TV deal that they just completely ignored the international. And then they tried to get an international with like 2 weeks left, which seems insanely short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything seems to have been done so last minute that this thing just fell apart. Why wouldn't you have the international thing worked out 6 months ago?
Very true.
And they announced this fight a long time ago. Why is everything not set up already?
Are you happy with what? So I know you're not. You said beforehand, and I like what you said. This doesn't feel like a big big kickboxing match. It feels like a regular kickboxing match. Just that Takeru and Tenshin are there.
I mean, K1 and Rise are both on Abima. So is this. What's the difference?
Is it also the rules as well? 3x3, one extension round. Is that also kind of having negative effects? Like you think should have been, I don't know, 5 rounds, 12 rounds, 5-minute rounds.
100%. 3-minute rounds has the potential for this to be bad. Like it's such a short fight. It needs to be longer because luckily the card is stacked with other really good popular fighters and exciting fighters, because this main event has potential to be a snooze fest because they'll barely have time to engage with each other. 3-minute rounds, that's nothing.
Do you foresee a Mayweather Pacquiao? Are you having flashbacks to that where it's just going to be nothing for?
See, my worry is if one of the fighters feels like they're going to be outclassed or they're hurt, the time limit's so small that they could just stall.
I see. Actually, speaking of the rest of the match card, what any other matches you looking forward to?
Obviously, I'm looking forward to Yaman.
Oh, because it was the press conference incident get you more hype for that fight?
Naturally. I mean, there's a ton of fights. It's like a K1 Rise. Just everyone, there's a fight on here. All the fights on here are kind of stacked. I was kind of disappointed they didn't put like one ladies fight on it.
I was going to ask you about that. Are you surprised that there's 16 fights and not one? There's no like Panchan Reina. There's no Momaka. There's no.
It seems like a missed opportunity to me because you could have gotten a female fighter on there and they wouldn't have been like expensive. They would have been probably cheaper than some of the fighters on here. And it would have just brought in a different group of fans or brought a different angle for that one match. So I would have liked to have seen Arena come back for a kickboxing match, or someone from Rise. And K1 and Rise both have women's divisions. Why can't they fight each other? And Kaito is on here from shoot boxing, so they could have brought over some girls from shoot boxing. I know Misaki has a really popular, she's pretty popular on social media, but it just seems like they could have had one. But that's just me nitpicking because all the fights on this are so stacked. I would have just liked to have seen like just one women's fight.
Why do you think there was no women's fight? Was it just? I don't think there was anything nefarious, but like it does
No, no, no,
stick
no.
out.
Um,
Well, because here's the other thing about JayWolf said to me off air yesterday when I talked to him. He said that maybe because K1 had no women's fighters because they're doing their tournament, the Queen of the Ring or whatever it is next month, so they didn't have anybody from their end potentially.
no, I mean, if this, I mean, this event's been planned for so long, they could have moved that women's event to put one woman on here. I think the problem is that neither one of them have a fighter that they feel probably has like a lot of star power.
Mhm.
Because the big champion in Rise was Hinata Terayama, who just retired due to injuries. And there's not really another super popular girl in Rise. I mean, they have popular fighters, but I think each promotion also wants to put forward a fighter that they think will win.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And so there's that issue. K1 has a couple female fighters, but I mean, it's not. I feel like Rise has the deeper roster. I think in Panchan Reina, I think was recovering from an injury as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that. Okay.
Maybe wrong, but also she's not associated with K1 Rise or shoot boxing.
There are some independent, I
That's
guess,
true,
kickboxers, but you mean, but for the most part, it is K1 versus Rise.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen Rena come on and fight somebody because Rena's big enough star to warrant being on this.
Actually, so is there one other? Oh, you said Yaman. Any other
There's a ton of
fights?
fun. I love Prince Taiju. He's always in exciting fights. His fights with Taiga and Rising were awesome. I mean, Haraguchi is a lot of fun. I mean, Kaito. I think Kaito's gonna get murdered. I mean, there's a ton of awesome fights on this card. I'm just scrolling through. I mean,
Bane- we
the
got
Ibatas are on here.
They got one Ibata, they didn't get the other one
Yeah.
though. I forgot which. I think Rui's on this, not Mitsuki.
You got Tenshin's younger brother. Yeah, I was also kind of curious. I don't think she's fighting anymore, but Tenshin's sister could have been a fun addition to the card.
Oh, she's not. Riri's not fighting anymore.
I don't think she's fought in a while. It looks like she's like working at a shop in Harajuku. Or
Wasn't
something.
one trying desperately to recruit her? Was that her that they were trying to get, or was that
That makes sense. They're obsessed with the problem with the, I mean, we can not to get too deep into that, but the women aren't, the one doesn't have the weight division for Japanese women. It's too heavy over there because their 49 kilo is actually 52 kilo.
I don't want to get into that
Yeah.
math
Don't
thing.
even get into that. But no, it's hard to pick because I mean, this fight is stacked. Even for a casual kickboxing fan, if you look at this card, you're like, oh wow, I've actually heard of a bunch of these people. I mean, Noah is usually fun. I mean, I think he might be outgunned on this, but I was laughing because I was talking to Babalu Jack and he essentially picked every K1 fighter to win. So, so a little bit of bias on his part.
Do you think, is this something you want to see again in the future, like a K1 versus Rise thing, or kind of like something similar card? Should this be like a yearly thing, or can this even happen again, or is this,
It never happens. It never happens again.
Too many egos at play.
Never happens again. I legitimately believe this only happened because both promotions needed the money because of the coronavirus. And with Tenshin going to boxing and Takeru nearing retirement, both promotions need to get as much money out of them as they can before their two big horses leave. And then the question is like, what do the promotions do when they're gone? Because no one has stepped up to fill the shoes of those guys popularity wise.
Actually, I was gonna ask that as well. What do you think, You think Takeru retires after this match, regardless of the outcome?
Depending on what happens. If he wins, I could see him retiring.
If he doesn't lose, if he loses, you can see him just doing other fights like he retire on a win.
No, if he loses, I could see him going to K1.
Wait, Takeru? Wait, Takeru?
Yeah, Takeru. If Takeru loses, I can see him going back to K1.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then fighting again, getting a win, and going out on a win, or having some type of retirement bout.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The future. So I think the website that the match said this is both the end and beginning of a new era of kickboxing. I think that's what the translation was. Or something. Does this feel like the end of an era to you with these two finally meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the end because they're both probably leaving very soon, and no one has stepped up to. Then they have very good kickboxers. They have very exciting fighters, but I mean, it's an X factor that's undescribable. Like, how can you can't describe why someone's popular, and no one has kind of stepped up to fill their voids. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Both promotions have survived without a popular fighter and are able to wait for the next guy to come. I remember going to Rise 10 years ago to watch Erika Kamamura fight Ham Sohi. So these promotions have been around for a long time. They know that they can survive, and they have their fans, and they'll just wait for the new star to come.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, who do you think could be the next one for K1 and Rise, if there is?
So the problem is not only do you have to be very popular, you have to win all the time. And the exciting fighters in Rise now are very exciting, but they also fight in ways that open them up to get like finished and like lose. And so
Happens
I
to
don't see any
Taiju a
of
lot.
them.
Happens to
Yeah,
Taiju
yeah.
a lot.
I mean, Taiju, Yaman, all those guys, like I can just see them getting one punch knocked out because they open themselves up. It makes it more exciting, fun to watch, but I just I can't think of a guy that can put together a type of Tenshin streak. So let's just think about it. Why is Tenshin popular? Tenshin fought in Rise for a long time and got popular within Rise, but then he kind of hit a glass ceiling. Then he went over and he beat that guy in Thailand with that crazy kick. And was that Ratatang? Who was that?
No, that wasn't Rotang. That was boy.
You know what I'm talking about, though. He went over to Thailand. He beat a very good Thai fighter. Japanese fans love it when a fighter goes and beats a foreign fighter. That kind of raised him a little bit more. But what really pushed Tenshin over was fighting in Rising. It's kind of funny because when he fought in Rising, he didn't really fight the best talent. I mean, He fought like the Taekwondo champion from the Ukraine and some dude from Hawaii that flew out like last minute. And he fought some people that kind of had interesting stories, but none of them were as good as the fighters as he was fighting. But the difference is it was on Fuji television on New Year's Eve. Everybody was watching it. Tenshin becomes a giant star because of Ryzen. Like Rise built the foundation, and he was a very good fighter, but then he was put on a national stage where he was able to get viewed by millions of people, and then he became insanely popular. How does Takeru get popular? Takeru's never been on a terrestrial broadcast before, if I remember correctly, and that's why he's kind of excited for this fight. Takeru, unlike Tenshin, has put in decades of fights. Like this guy has just been there, the workhorse for K1, just carrying the promotion by himself. K1, which is kind of like living off of the famous brand name from the early 2000s and late 90s. So guy fights for a famous brand, and he's been like single-handedly carrying it for a very long time. So that's how he got popular. I just don't see a guy in any of the promotions yet who's doing what they're doing or doing what they did. And I think, unfortunately, it's going to be like a cyclical thing. Will Rise and K1 would go on for a couple of years without a fighter like them until a new one kind of emerges.
Do you think that their popularity, K1 and Rise, goes down significantly? Until that person.
Yeah, it's all cyclical. It'll dip. Of course it'll dip, because Rise isn't, I mean, you'd be foolish to think that. Let me think. So they're both on Abima TV. When they fight, it's not marketed as like Rise has a fight on Abima, K1 has a fight on Abima. It's no, Takeru's fighting today, and it's Tenshin's fighting today. Like they're bigger than the brand almost, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I see.
The other example would be like for one championship, they do really good numbers when Itsuki Hirata fights on the card. When Itsuki Hirata is not on the card, not very good numbers. So that's the kind of thing it is. People are tuning in for the athletes. They're not tuning in for the promotions.
Mm-hmm. What's the worst case scenario of this fight? What's the worst? How could this fight be the worst fight in the world if it to you? Well, like
boring.
What will have to happen?
Boring fight. If both of them refuse to engage, if it's just like a jab fest for 3 rounds.
Do you think the audience in Tokyo Dome will roundly shittle over it if that does happen?
Yes. There's like some myth that Japanese fan crowds don't make noise. They make noise. They're very vocal. It's just they're not annoying drunks like in the US.
Actually, if you don't mind me asking, so because in pro wrestling they don't allow cheering now because of the coronavirus. I don't think that is does Ryzen.
I think they stopped doing that. That it was that way at MMA shows. I remember seeing a guy having to have a security guard sit by him and tell him to stop making noise. But no, it's not that way anymore. I don't. They used to give you instructions when you went in. I haven't seen them for like a year.
Gotcha. Do you know anybody who is going to the show?
Yeah, I think Babalu Jack is going.
Oh wow, okay. How much? I'm curious to know how much did he pay for his tickets?
I think he's got the cheapest one.
Oh, okay, so that's like $300. I think was the cheapest.
I think it's like 200.
Oh, okay.
It's like 100 and something. But he may not be going actually, but he was planning to go. But I think something happened. But
did you always want? Were you ever planning to go? Or I know you.
No,
did you ever want to go to see it?
Yeah, and I entered the lottery, but the problem is like when you start going with like a group, it's like exponentially more expensive. And so it's like, are we going to like pay $3,000 to go to this fight as a group? No. Or we could spend $40 as a group and order a couple pizzas and watch on a big screen TV. Because even if we all went, we'd be watching it Tokyo Dome from such a high vantage point, we'd be watching the screen anyway. So we just decided to watch it at the comfort of our home.
Well, also the size of Takeru and Tenshin, they might appear like ants depending on wherever you'd be sitting. Yeah, I mean, do you think there could ever be another match like this? A big match like this, like I'll say within the next 10 years. Do you think there can ever be something like that, like MMA or kickboxing? If there is,
yeah, 100%. I mean, it seems to be happening like once every generation of fighters. So we had Masato versus Kid. Now we know that the most watched match of all time, or the highest rating score for a match, was Bob Sapp versus Akebono.
Yeah,
but that something like that will never happen again. That was insane numbers. There's like a 46% viewership, so it's absolutely nuts. But no, it could totally happen.
Any other? I know that you're looking forward to the Kaito and no. Do you have any other predictions for any other fights that are going on? Other than you said that K1, you think all the K1 fighters are gonna win probably?
No, I was just laughing because Babalu Jack showed me his predictions, and I was like, "You picked 3 Rise fighters to win and 15 K1 fighters to win."
Actually, like, I'll ask this. I know that one of the things we've talked about is that Japan judges are very indecisive. Can you see the fight being ruled a draw just because?
Well, let me take a look. I mean, it looks like all the fights are 3 rounds, so that's going to be rough. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of draws. I think if this was a shoot boxing show, they'd all be draws. Well, if there was a shoot boxing show, they'd be draws until the shoot boxer won. That's what I've noticed. But I love shoot boxing, but you can't deny the fact their judging is suspicious.
Well, do you think the main event? Do you think Takeru Tenshin can be ruled a draw?
No, I think. Let me pose a question to you. Who do you think has the most to lose by losing?
I honestly think Tenshin does. I really
Me
think
too.
Yeah.
I think Takeru has nothing left to prove. Takeru has been a elite level kickboxer for so long. And he's near the end of his career. If he loses to the young gun, that's just what happens. That's life.
I also
old guy loses to the young guy. But if he wins, Tenshin goes into his boxing career off a terrible note.
I'll say this as well. I don't even consider Takeru the old guy. I know he's not a spring chicken, but he's not. I don't consider it. He's a young veteran in a way.
I mean, it's with fighters, you got to treat it like a car. Like you're not looking at the age, looking at the miles.
Yeah. The other thing also is that I think this is more important for this was more important for Takeru when it was on Fuji TV. I'm still guessing that it's still important, but when they had the Fuji TV, it was the first time that K1 would ever be on like terrestrial television. How long? 20 years, something like that. but I think Takeru, this is more important for him, because it is him representing K1. It's him,
See, I do feel like I agree with you that he feels more connected to K1 than Tenshin does to Rise.
I also feel
But
that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just feel like he's got nothing to lose. I mean, the problem, Takeru gets hit. That's what his problem. He's been hit in his career. He's been hurt in his fights, but he always fights through it. But I would almost argue that I think Takeru has fought consistently better competition than Tenshin his entire career. And I don't know if it's like Tenshin fatigue, but I just feel my impression, I don't want to say feel, my impression is that Tenshin's past opponents in Rising haven't been world class.
So
I've been disappointed in these weird like fight three guys in a boxing match.
It
all reminds me of like the George Foreman, the Montreal 3, which I just
you're saying that Mitsuhisa Tsunabe and Kat Yamamoto and Yamamoto Fujita are not worthy opponents of Tenshin's in
I'm just saying when you fight Takanori Gomi and
that's a non-canon fight. I don't consider
and you
that
fight
anything.
Tokoro and you don't destroy them, it makes you look bad.
Yeah, no, I think more that Tenshin is doing this as a favor. Wow, Takeru feels like he has to do this. That could be my entire impression. Because remember, there was an entire time when Tenshin was saying, "Hey, I don't want to do it. I'm not interested." He'd be, when.
No, see, I think he was interested. I think that's all a negotiating tactic.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I thought he was generally not interested.
He may not have been interested, but I think it was a brilliant negotiating tactic to put the onus to make it appear that if the fight doesn't happen, it's because of K1.
Actually, speaking of that, is K1 still suing Ryzen? Do you happen to know, or has that thing been settled years and years ago? Because if they are still in litigation, that must have been some awkward.
I have no idea. I haven't seen anything on that yet.
But remember that, right? That when the K1 they put a cease and desist order to Ryzen or something.
Was that because of Koji or?
It was some. Yeah, there was something made.
I don't remember that. For some reason, I don't remember that.
Okay.
No, but yeah, just my impression is that because Tenshin has this whole career ahead of him still, he still sees himself as having a very long career after this. He has more to lose. And does that make him fight more cautiously? Is he willing to, is it more important to him to not get knocked out than it is to win the fight? Kind of thing is what I'm worried about.
So actually a question. So you picking Takeru to win, but do you think he wins by knockout? Do you think it goes the full distance? And by full distance, I mean even to the fourth round potentially.
I think at this point, I'm just saying what I want to see. I want to see a finish. I think both their guys' egos and pride in play, that if they get hurt, they're going to try to get the other guy back. So if they get hurt, they're either going to hurt their opponent in return or get finished themselves.
So what you're saying is that most likely this match will end in 10 seconds with an inverted headbutt, and they'll both be bleeding. The doctor will say, "Sorry, no."
I don't know. I'm so terrible at picking fights because I have I'm like hashtag Team Kana so much that I just want Takeru to win. And I feel like Takeru's.
Yes, I
feel like Takeru has put in the work, and I always respect the fighters that fought. It's like MMA and kickboxing in Japan is very cyclical. It's very extremely popular, not popular, extremely popular, not popular. So that's when fighters like Takeru who gut it through the rough times and then make it into a period where the sport's doing very well. I'm very excited to see them get their paydays. And that'd be nice to me if he finished his career on a big win.
So as we come to the close of this, talking about the match, any final thoughts on the match, on Takeru, Tenshin, or anything else regarding this?
Anything can happen. I mean, the fight could not happen. The fight could happen. And either one could win. I mean, it's impossible to say. They don't have a lot of common opponents. They're different weight classes. The rules are very particular. What are their motivations going into the fight? I just know that this card, the beauty of this card is it's not solely set on the match. This card is stacked with killers, and there's going to be a ton of exciting fights on this card.
Do you think this could potentially be one of the best just kickboxing shows of all time?
Yeah, 100%. This could be, because unlike Kid Yamamoto versus Masato, this entire card is stacked. It kind of blows my mind because it goes against like the entire like boxing of just putting Mike Tyson on top of a card and then not even giving a shit what the other 10 fights are. Where this entire card is stacked by fights that could be main events on Rise or K1 shows.
Yeah, so where can also people reach out and see what you're doing?
Sogo-Kaku.com. Let's talk JMA with Shuhurata. In my Twitter, CJ_Sogo-Kaku.
Will you guys be doing a match talk this weekend?
Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. We tend to talk more about MMA. And
Fortunately, there's no MMA go other than Road
Yeah.
TFC. There's really no MMA going on.
I mean, there is. I mean, yeah, it's true. But I mean, we'll probably talk more about the implications that this has for Rizin, because Rising is kind of, well, Rising is not officially involved. The issues that have happened going into this match have very serious consequences for Rizin.
Gotcha. And also your YouTube channel. You always never plug your YouTube.
Oh, yes.
Sogo-Kaku.
Yeah, my YouTube channel. Yeah, check it out. I don't upload a lot of content, but try to make good content when I do.
Yes, that's what we try to do as well here. And thank you, CJ, for telling us your thoughts on the match.
I hope I'm not the only person that's like super negative.
I'm sure you're not. I'm sure. Listen, there's tons of other people who probably share similar sentiments, especially stateside.
Outside, I want to be clear. Outside of like all the politics and behind the scenes stuff, this is a very exciting fight that I'm looking forward to watch. I don't want that to get buried under what I said, but it's just unfortunate everything that's happened around it.
Of course, I get it. No, I get it. But yeah, we'll be definitely talking soon.
Yes, perfect.
And we are talking to Jack Wannan from Knockdown News, an award-winning journalist from Knockdown News. How's it going, Jack?
It's going good. There's so much to talk about regarding the match, and the way we're talking about it is constantly changing. So I'm really interested to chat today.
Oh yes, there seems to be something new popping up all the time. Not necessarily good things as well, but I'll get right. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. How do you feel about the match happening? How is it important? Why is it an important fight for you?
Well, when I think about the significance of the match, I think that this really is the end of an era in the kickboxing scene in Japan. When you think about how there's two names who have really dominated headlines in the sport, and just been the two biggest names in their respective areas, in their respective promotions. And this is the end. We know that Tenshin plans on moving on to boxing. We don't really know what's going on Takeru's end, but we know that at the end of the day, Tenshin is leaving. And this was a fight that people wanted for a long time. This was like a dream match for a while for a lot of people. So for it to come together is a big deal. And just besides the fact that it is happening, the significance of the fight in itself, the match in itself, to talk about the collaboration of these promotions to make this fight happen is a big deal. It's not too often that you get to see Rise and K1 and in a sense Rise and also come together to make this fight. We saw in the earlier years of Ryzen that K1 did some stuff with them, but that was incredibly brief. So for this to happen, and we don't really know how that relationship severed really, but for this all to be happening, it's a big deal because it was clearly a lot of work to do this co-promotion. You don't see much co-promotion going on in kickboxing, and the fact that it's just the end of an era.
So with it being the end of an era, do you foresee? I know that you're not too much into kickboxing, but do you think that this is all because they're promoting it as the end and it starts? Do you foresee anybody who you would feel comfortable saying that could be the next maybe Tenshin?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough question to answer. I mean, I think that.
Well, here's a better question. Sorry, to interrupt. Do you think there can be another Tenshin or Takeru?
Oh yeah, I mean, these guys were big deals, but it's not like they had like superstardom. So that they can definitely there's definitely going to be someone who replaces them. It's just a question of when that person will come around, like who that person will be, and when they'll come around. You know, will we get that person immediately? Will we know who that is immediately? Will it take a couple of years? Because the thing is that not only does someone have to have that talent and have to have that sort of popularity in the public eye, but they also need the machine behind them. You know, Tenshin didn't become Tenshin without him being promoted heavily by Rise and by Ryzen and getting these massive opportunities. You know, you need someone who the promotion is actively saying, this is going to be our guy. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, who gets sort of almost handpicked as that person, because that's what it comes down to, is that someone at the end of the day, if they're successful enough, if they're popular enough, they get picked as that person that's going to get that big push.
Hmm. So what are your predictions for how the fight goes?
I mean, the issue is that it's so hard to read how Tenshin is now. You know, we've seen him in these weird boxing exhibitions, and if there's anything that I've taken away from those boxing exhibitions, it's been something just doesn't seem right about him in those fights. Um, how much can you read into an exhibition where you're facing veterans and people who are probably not taking it too seriously? I guess you can't read into it too much. So if we were to judge off of these two guys at their peak, I don't know. I would say that somebody's going to win on scorecards here, first of all, because it's only 3 rounds. I think that while these guys are deadly, I see that the skill level here means that there isn't going to be a finish within 3 rounds. That's 9 minutes. That's very short. Um, and you know, that's a qualm that a lot of people have with this fight, is that it's only 3 rounds. That what if you go 3 rounds and it's not satisfying because you know, maybe they were just starting up at that moment. I would probably have to lean Tenshin, but you know, to be fair, in like full disclosure, that does play into my biases about how I've seen more Tenshin fights than I have seen for Takeru. So um but I you know, it's a hard one to call. I mean, that's what's so great about the fight, is that that's why people want to watch it, is because it's a close one. It's an unpredictable one, but I would probably have to say Tenshin. Yeah.
So speaking of watching, just came out that there'll be no way for us people outside Japan to watch it I guess easily. How do you will you be watching live? Will you find a way to watch it live? And I also just want to kind of get your thoughts on this whole thing of no international streaming for something as big as this.
Yeah, well, you know, the anxiety of international fans for where they're going to watch a combat sports event from Japan, it's always there. I did a story about this, well, Jesus, like 2 years ago. And I actually, you were part of it. And it was about how, you know, people are always worried, okay, this event's happening, cool, whatever. Am I going to be able to watch it? Or am I going to have to jump through a lot of hoops to watch it? K1 fans, this is nothing new to them. This is actually the ordinary for them, because K1 events on Abima are often blocked. You need a VPN to watch them. It's very odd. Abima in general is region locked to Japan, but for some reason the Rise events tend to not be region locked on the site, so that you can actually watch those without a VPN. It's all very confusing, but it, you know, obviously it's disappointing. I do understand that, you know, the thing is that the market outside of Japan for something like this isn't massive, so it is hard to convince these companies to go that extra mile and provide that for people. Um, but it is one of those things where you would just hope that there would be some sort of way, whether it be putting something on YouTube for free or putting it on Fight for pay-per-view, or just finding any sort of route, not even to get an English broadcast, but just get a broadcast, end of sentence. You would hope that that's something that people could get, especially when it's a match of this magnitude. It's not just a regular event. Oh, and
Uh,
if I will be watching, I'll find a way. Yeah.
okay. Actually, did you ever think this fight would ever happen? And you know, for as long as you've been covering combat sports, you know, you go through this, you know, Tony Ferguson and Khabib, Others I'm trying to think of, I can't think of, but probably like in MMA's Tony Ferguson and Khabib was like the one fight that's like MMA fans want to see and will never happen. Will like maybe will happen, but probably will like never happen. But Tenshin Takeru seem to be going down that route. Did you ever think that this fight could ever have been made?
Well, I mean, the thing is that for a while, the question about when this fight could be made, there wasn't any impending like countdown on it. But then when Tenshin said that he's planning to go to boxing in a year, and he had a set deadline for when he's going to leave, that was like the moment where we realized, okay, that we have to act on this now, because if we don't act on this now, the fight's never going to happen. And I was skeptical, honestly. I was one of the people who was more skeptical. I read what people thought. I talked to people, and the things I heard made it sound like people had sort of given up on this fight. But it does seem like the match being made was an 11th hour thing. It was announced on like Christmas Eve last year, which was such a weird thing for me. And I was one of the more skeptical people, but obviously it being made is something that I was surprised but not like shocked by, just because I know that the demand is there. So everyone who is involved is going to try to find all the options they can to make this fight happen before completely giving up. No one's going to go, I sort of tried, but I don't really want to make this fight. Like this was everybody knew the money and the interest involved in this, so they tried every way they could to make it, and it not to knock on wood, it happened.
So in terms of hype, and I know that you cover so much, how do you feel the hype is for Takeru Tenshin, at least in the bubble, I guess?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that the people who are interested in this type of fight, it's within a like very niche internet community that follows the kickboxing scene. Obviously within that circle, it's massive. This is the fight is as of talking today, still 8 days away. Um, that's a whole week. Most things, from what I see online, don't get discussed until like the Tuesday, Wednesday. You're days away from it, because just the fight scene means that there's something on every weekend. So if you start talking about something more than a week ahead of time, that usually means it's bigger than a lot of things. So it's a pretty big deal in this circle. I don't know how much it's breaking outside of that niche. That's a very hard barrier to break, because if someone doesn't know either of these fighters, if someone doesn't even know much about kickboxing, if they're just like an MMA person, it might be hard to intrigue them on this. But I mean, within the circle of people who follow these things, it's probably the biggest thing that's going to happen this year.
Hmm. I not and is there anything else about this show that you're looking forward to? Again, I know that we're not the most into kickboxing, but is there a fighter or maybe even a fight that also sticks out for you on this card?
Yeah, well, just being someone who's covered Ryzen for years, it was really surprising to me to see a former shoot boxer Kaito on the card. It's really interesting because he was someone who appeared in Ryzen about 3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago now. Had some really, really impressive performances, won both of them, I think, and then just never showed up again. But the thing is that even though he's out of the spotlight of people who maybe exclusively watch Ryzen, he's been having an incredible career, and he's still tearing it up in the kickboxing scene. And I'm looking at Tapology. I could be wrong here, but it looks like he's in the co-main event spot for this show. So I'm interested to see him. I've seen this Sina Kari guy fight before, and I know he's a bit of like a meme in the community or something, so I like him. And also I just like the theme of the K1 versus Rise in general.
Actually,
Also, if there's one more thing, I like that the length of this card, there's a lot of big fights on it. You mentioned before who's gonna be the next Tenshin, who's gonna be the next Takeru. I mean, giving a lot of these people a massive stage to try to set up that part of their career. You can't get that part of your career simply from being on this card, but
mhm.
fighting at the Tokyo Dome, This is for a lot of these people a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Do you think a show like this can happen again, like a K1 versus Rise, or do you think that from how this show seemed to be produced and also the conditions as well, I think someone I talked to speculated coronavirus may have been the reason why, because it hurt the companies financially. Do you think a K1 versus Rise show can ever be done again, or is this one and done, and then we're going back to do our own thing?
Well, I think it's a hard question to answer. It's worth being remembered that this event was brought together off of one objective, and it was making a fight that people knew would garner large amounts of public interest. If you couldn't make the match as an event probably wouldn't happen, because the public interest in all the other fights, while it is there, it is just certainly nowhere near the interest of the main event. So, can these events happen? I think that the fact that these companies are working together to make this event, it's a sign that it's more likely to happen again than it isn't, because they've gone they've come a long way from where they were a year ago, and they're actually working together, and they actually have an event happening. Though I mean, realistically, I do think that for them to do another super card like this, if you want to call it that, they would need some sort of big objective at hand, like a big fight to make. Because the only reason this event was made was because all of the promoters said, okay, I'll begrudgingly deal with you, and I'll work out a TV deal, and I'll work out a venue, and I'll negotiate which of my guys face which of your guys, all of that I can only imagine dealing with your competitors is probably hell. So they all did that because they knew there was one big fight. They knew that would be a big payday for everyone involved. So if they can find some way to do that again in the future, whether that be in like 5 years or something, maybe. But this is a big thing. So I think that this card can most definitely happen again someday, but will it happen tomorrow? No.
Oh, definitely big payday, especially if was it a $30,000 ticket that was sold or whatever that.
Yeah, nobody I know is going to the match.
Nobody I know can afford the match if they even were in Japan.
Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of TV deals and all that, what do you think of this whole thing that happened with Fuji TV, Ryzen, and this whole thing? Does it just seem like this whole thing has been cursed, and like everything, all the elements, and just whatever is working against it? It's kind of like almost like its own match in a way. It's just the match the match itself is also the match happening. That's the other big fight that's happening.
Right. Well, the scandal with Sakakibara, it's just a total mess. And the interesting thing is that, as someone who mostly reports on JMMA, that's gonna find its way into my reporting too, because this was a uniquely J-Kick story, because it was all about how it's going to affect the match. But now we have to look into, in the future, does this mean Fuji TV is no longer working with Ryzen? Because they said they never struck a contract to broadcast the match, but reading the tea leaves of what that means in the perspective of the scandal around Sakakibara and stuff like that, does that mean they're going to cut off their relationship with Ryzen in total? That's completely speculating, but it is something worth noting. It's a total mess. I said on Twitter once, I think I said this to CJ, that people won't stop being anxious about the match until they see it happen. Because realistically, worries and anxieties about the match have existed for more than a year, because the initial worry was, is this match ever going to happen? That was the worry, and people knew that there was only so much time for the match to be made. And then once the match was made, it lifted some weight off people's shoulders. But then more things came. This scandal came. Broadcast issues came. It's a never-ending list of things. Maybe something. I mean, I don't want to, cause something by speaking into existence. But maybe something else will happen. There's still 8 more days, folks. There's still a weight cut to happen. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, the scandal, it's a total mess, and it's not something you want. And um, you know, it's just a really bad look.
So, one of the things also is that with big fights like this is that sometimes they can just be disappointing. And I think the best example of that is Mayweather Pacquiao. For many reasons why that fight was disappointing many people. How do you think this fight can be a disappointing fight once that bell rings? What's the worst possible outcome that can happen and make this fight like all
Worst
this?
possible outcome, like first round no contest. I don't know. Then you have to do another match. Like I can go on
The
for hours.
rematch 2022.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can go on for hours just brainstorming how you can make the worst possible outcome for this match. No, I mean it's possible, and it's something that's worth keeping in mind because it is entirely possible it can happen. And if you disregard that it's a possibility, you are possibly setting yourself up for absolute heartbreak. We don't know how these guys will fare against each other. We don't know how their styles will match up against each other. We're only going off of what we think. Soon we'll go off of what we know, and maybe what we know isn't as beautiful as what we think. That's the case in a lot of that's words to live by, that sometimes you think of something and you think it's amazing, and then it turns out it's not too great. But with that being said, I'm not trying to be like pessimistic. I'm just saying, yeah, it's completely a possibility, but also these guys are two high level kickboxers, so I'm not too worried about it being a bad quality fight.
Now, you talk to a lot of the kickboxing, I guess what should I call them, connoisseurs and all that. And I'm curious to know, talking to them, have they gotten you more excited for this fight than maybe if you hadn't, been in, talking to such people, and you're just, it's just another kick. Have they gotten you more hyped for the match, or gotten you more looking forward to it and more and all that?
I don't know. I mean, like it's gotten me more interested. I don't really. This sounds dumb, but I don't really get like hyped about fights. I just like sort of observe. But I think that the amount of excitement that people have had about it has drawn me in, because it just shows how important this is. I mean, if this fight was a big deal, it would take something out of it if nobody gave a shit. Like that wouldn't be ideal. So the fact that this fight has a big implications in the sport, and the level of enthusiasm is being matched with that, it's a big deal. Obviously that's not always the case. I mean, think about how many UFC championship fights don't really get that much hype, even though they are absolutely the pinnacle of that weight class. Think of how, I mean, you can go down a list of examples like that where, something is definitely the highest level in a sport, yet there's just not the amount of eyes that you could argue that type of fight deserves. I think this is a great example of a fight being high level and getting the amount of attention that is equal to that level of fight.
I apologize. I know that you're a reporter and you always like to be, so I always have that problem, because when you meet a lot of MMA reporters, sometimes it's hard to like balance the whole being a fan and being a reporter. And I sometimes fall into that as well when it comes to like
I hope I didn't make my answer lame because of
no,
that.
no. You take your job seriously, which is good. I'm like all over the place with that whole thing, and so I apologize for that. I apologize. So I what do you think? What do you think would be like the MMA equivalent of like a Takeru Tenshin match? Can there be one at this point?
Well, it's hard to compare because honestly, so many of the big things about this fight is that these two guys were in two different worlds for a while. Yeah. The idea of them crossing paths was hard to imagine. In the UFC, in MMA, you have this more the world isn't as split. The top fighters mostly go to the UFC. There's a few that go to PFL, there's a few that go to Bellator. If we were to look strictly at like the idea of a co-promotion, it would have to be something like a Bellator fighter and a PFL fighter facing off. You know, the idea of a like a Chris Cyborg versus Kayla Harrison super match has been one that people have thrown around. And you know, some people might get upset at that comparison, but the thing is that the issue is that you can't really compare any of the two top UFC fighters for this type of thing, because the issue is that when there are two top UFC fighters, they just face each other. There's no like 5-year long build up between the two guys, because they are in two completely different worlds and they're facing different divisions. So such a big part of this fight is the anticipation and the fact that people have known for a long time that these two guys are massive names, but they couldn't fight each other yet. And now that that's finally happening, that's a big deal. So I find it hard to compare, but if we're looking strictly at storyline wise, that hypothetical like Kayla Harrison, Chris Cyborg, Bellator versus PFL type of thing, where it's two people who completely dominated the promotions almost to an egregious rate, dominated their promotions and are being matched. That's probably the fairest comparison. That's completely devoid of how either of those fighters fight compared to Tenshin or Takeru, but that's the fairest comparison I can make.
Actually, speaking of storyline, so rumors or what could likely happen is that Takeru maybe will retire. He's a little bit on the older side. I think he's gotten he's broken his hand a few times. Usually when
he's also mentioned retiring before.
Correct? That too. We got Tenshin going into boxing. So I mean, obviously the fight is important to both of them, but who do you think has more to who loses more in a potential loss, with Tenshin going into boxing or Takeru potentially retiring on a loss? And also carrying K1. One of the reasons why he wanted this fight to happen was this was going to be this would have been K1's first time in many years being on terrestrial television in Fuji TV. That's obviously not happening now, but still he sees himself as the guy who's been carrying the company for as long as he's been the top guy there. So what do you think, and the implications of the loss, who does that affect a lot more?
Well, I think it's a legacy thing. I mean, the problem is that the interesting thing about this fight is that it is going to show, or at least could show, how these two fighters have actually been, like, how good they are versus the talent pool they faced. The fact that Tenshin has only fought in Rise and Takeru's only fought in K1 means that their opponents aren't crossing over too often. So you know, what if this fight happens and one guy steamrolls the other? Well, what does that tell us? That tells us that, well, one seems to be from the better promotion because he's been facing the better guys. And what's that saying? Like, iron sharpens iron. I don't know what it is. I just literally woke up, but it's one of those things where whoever wins, them winning could be reflective of their promotion and the people they face. And similar to how you said Takeru said he's representing K1, the winner of this fight really is representing their promotion. They've not hidden the fact that this entire event is a promotion versus promotion type card. So that it's the legacy of them and the promotion that they've represented for numerous years. Yeah.
It's kind of because I do feel like I don't feel like Tenshin is really representing Rise so much. I feel like he's more representing himself. I feel like he just happens to be a Rise fighter, but I feel like Takeru is he's fighting for K1. This is him and K1 versus just Tenshin. That's the least the feeling that's the energy I'm getting from the two. Now I gotta also ask, did you see the whole thing that happened with Yaman and Ashizawa at the press conference? When they
that was siege. Yeah.
Does that, based on that whole little storyline or that whole thing that happened, is that a fight that you're also looking forward to, because now we got a little bad blood coming into that fight? Is that or were you just turned off by just the behavior of kind of just like both of them?
Those things don't bother me because we've seen it, dozens of times now. But I thought it was interesting. I mean, it adds something to their match, I guess. I mean, um, I don't think the fighting at press conferences is good, but when that happened, I thought it was surprising. I thought it was hilarious. I forget who it was, but which one of them got absolutely tackled by a security guard,
Yeah, that was
and in
Yaman
the process,
and smacked
that was
this guy.
Yaman.
Yeah,
He
security guard. Just like I've never seen a security guard come in so fast to like break up a fight ever.
he like
UFC.
rock bottomed him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and Yaman hit his head on the back. He got like he like smacked his head on the
Yeah,
back.
it actually looked really painful.
Oh yeah, no, like you've covered UFC things, you've seen Bellator things, you've seen people push each other and all that stuff, and I don't think I've ever seen like a security guard like coming faster.
Hey, he knew his job, I guess.
Yeah, because I have flashbacks to the what was it, Jeremy Stevens Dracker close thing? Remember
The
where?
shove.
Yeah, the shove that did Dracker's neck jacked it up. And
Messed him up, yeah.
I'm just like, listen, you knew these guys were like should have been in there before. You should have been in there before.
Well, I just it made me think this security guard, he was doing his job, and it made me think of times where there hasn't been much security, like the scuffle that Daniel Cormier and John Jones had on the MGM Grand floor, where I think it was John Anik was standing in the middle of them, and he just gets shoved into a void because the poster behind him immediately falls when he gets shoved into it. He just falls into the background.
I think wasn't there there's a photo, like a zoomed in photo of like Anik, who's like kind of just like in the middle of these two giant men, and you could just see like the fear of like how did I like
yeah, and like
record stop. So this is how I wound up in this situation.
Bless his soul, he actually tried to get in between them, but he was no match. So yeah, the security guard, he did his job. I'll be interested. I mean, I'm gonna be watching the card, so I'll catch that fight for sure. We saw Yaman in Rizin recently, didn't we?
Against Koji. I think it was Koji.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
Where he had that very emotional post fight thing, saying like, hey, my dad left when I was a kid. I grew up I think he said he didn't, I don't know if he grew up in the streets, but he certainly didn't grow up, with a lot of help. And he got into kickboxing to help his himself. And yeah, now he's now the one of the fights I'm most looking forward to other than the main events on this show.
Yeah, he's a real character beside his fighting.
If all, I'm also looking forward to the how about the heavyweights? Because listen, kickboxing heavyweight fights seem to be so rare now that like they just stick out like a sore thumb. Like you said, Cena, and then you have the other Iranian guy. So we got, listen, those are gonna be like just like wild. Especially if you've ever seen the I don't know if have you seen the K1 Grand Prix that happened this year, or did you see the results of that where they have like
I heard about it. Oh
yeah, that's kickboxing heavyweight is a lot of fun.
I was just surprised they even put together a tournament up at heavyweight.
That's a funny thing is that K1 actually has heavyweight fighters. They actually try to find heavyweight fighters rise.
Yeah, but when you look at the cards, they're so few and far in between because there's just not many heavyweight fighters. I mean, you see it in the MMA scene too, that there's the heavyweight scene is so scarce.
Oh no, it absolutely is. But K1 somehow manages to do it. So actually, so what? I'll leave the final thought to you. So what overall, any last thoughts about the match, Takeru Tenshin? Anything else about this show coming up? Or if you want to rant on a Viva TV, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Whatever you want to do, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a really big moment when we look back on it, because it's sort of the end of like I said before in the interview, it's the end of an era for both promotions, both fighters. We know Tenshin's moving on. The future about Takeru we'll find out. But at the end of the day, these are two stars which near the end of their respective runs with their promotions. So we get to see what happens with Tenshin in his boxing career, and we also get to see what happens with these promotions. Rise and Rizin respectively both had Tenshin as one of their biggest stars. Tenshin would get thrown in these whatever matchups just so he could be on New Year's Eve, just so he could be on network TV, on Fuji TV, going up against some of the Goliaths of New Year's Eve television on network TV in Japan. He's a huge star, so him leaving is a massive deal. That I'm curious to see how he leaves. Does he leave on a win? Does he leave on a loss? And that's the biggest part about this fight. But just looking past the fight, looking past the match, I'm really curious to see what this does for both promotions, and what are we going to see from Rizin in the future? What are we going to see from Rise in the future? And similarly, where is Takeru going to go from here? Is he going to go back to being the face of K1, or is this going to sort of be the end of his career? Is he going to have more fights after this, or is K1 going to start positioning someone else as their new star? There's so much to look at the perspective of what happens after this, because the match is such a huge deal, but people need to remember nothing ends like this. Isn't the end of kickboxing. Kickboxing continues after, and it's just a matter of what comes after this. So yeah,
Kickboxing's been through a lot, and they somehow manage to always survive. Somehow, if Glory can still be around after Glory just seems to have like dominoes of bad luck for their promotion. And I don't think this Rico, what is it? Is it Verhoeven and Overeem they said they're going to be booking, I think?
Yeah.
I feel like something's going to happen and that fight won't happen. They just always seem to have bad luck.
Hopefully not a riot.
I hope can't promise that. Listen, almost at this point, I have to tune into a Glory show just to see if there will be a riot. That's become like a trademark of their show at this point. I can't.
It was so weird. I was like covering a UFC event, and then I saw on Twitter like, okay, wait, the event's been canceled due to a riot. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, but I don't think we'll get a riot during the match. Hopefully not. But I think I think the match will go down. I think it's fair to say there won't be a riot during the match. Very unlikely.
Just make sure that security guard is there, the one that tackled Yama.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
He can handle it.
But yeah, Jack, appreciate your time, and we'll be on. Oh, where can people reach you? Where can people follow you and see what you're doing?
Oh yeah, my Twitter is Jack Wannan, JackWannan, and I run an MMA news site, knockdownnews.com, or you can just follow it on Twitter, Knockdown News. So thanks for having me.
No problem. And we're on to the next one. What? Hi, and we are here with JayWolf, former writer, I guess, for MMA Mania, and I guess you could call him the most epic, brutal Rizin fan, because I've never met somebody who loves soccer kicks more than he does.
Oh yes, thank you, brother. I appreciate that intro, and I'm just glad to be here talking about this epic match right here. I love the Almighty Pride Fighting Championships and the Pride rules, and the EPIC RIZIN, which has updated Pride rules, which I like to call the superior rule set, where they added elbows to it and socket stomps, everything, just all up kicks, everything. That's why I call it the superior rule set, and that's what I love in this sport. And I'm here representing for the K1. You see this shirt right here? Got my K1 shirt. Got that at the 2012 K1 show they did in LA. We were there. MMA fans were there representing. So we're basically, me and you, Drew. We're MMA experts, but today we're casual J-Kick fans right here, talking about this epic match here. I'm so happy it's coming together finally.
So no superior rule set this time for this show.
No, that's for EPIC RIZIN. Yeah. EPIC RIZIN 36 after this one.
But we do have the epic match 2022, Takeru versus Tenshin. I'm just gonna simply ask, how do you feel that this fight has come about and finally seems to be happening?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's so great for the combat sports world. So great for kickboxing and J-Kick in particular, and the brands of K1 and Rise and even Rizin, because Sakakibara-san is the promoter behind this, or one of the promoters behind it. So it's just great for the brands. It's great for the sport, great for the fans. For a longest time, people were asking for this match for a long time, years. And there was a lot of doom and gloomers saying it's never going to happen. It'll never happen. You're getting your hopes up. You're going to be let down. But you know what? Look, it's happening. Hope is real, and it works, and it paid off. And it's happening now in a week's time. And it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be a huge match. It's huge for the fans. They're going to have a lot of fun. And it's going to hopefully, just bring interest back into the J-Kick world and everything. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I just can't wait. I'm just so happy it's actually happening, and I'm just so happy for the fans the sport as a whole, and combat sports as a whole. It's just awesome.
So I'm going to simply ask, did you think the fight would ever happen?
Yes, I have always been part of the Hopium crew. I've always been, hope springs eternal. I've always known it was going to happen. I always had faith in them that they were going to get it, that they were going to make it happen. Faith in the fighters, Takeru and Tenshin. Both of them were always talking about making it happen. And I knew it would happen eventually. And it's just, the only thing that's disappointing is that they didn't have an international stream so we could pay them money for this event. I mean, I'm ready to pay. I have money ready to pay them for this stream. But I mean, they just,
what is it? The Futurama meme, shut up and take my money or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Shut up and take my money. Oh, wait, you don't even want it. You don't even have a stream available. We can't even pay you.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm just going to simply ask off the bat, Takeru versus Tenshin. Who do you predict and how do you think the fight goes?
I do not like making predictions. I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm going to go with, especially on fights I care about, but I will for this show, just for your show, Drew. I'm going to do that. I'll make a prediction. I'll say Takeru because he's a bigger fighter. He's older, and when you got size, it's just that translates to more strength. So and they're both excellent fighters. Both guys are just world-class kickboxers. But I mean, I just think Takeru's size might just be a little bit too much for Tenshin. Plus, he comes from K1, and one of my favorite things about this card is that they matched it up so fun. It's K1 guys versus Rise fighters throughout the whole card. I mean, how fun is that? So, I love both brands, and I watch both brands when I can. But I have to go with the K1 guys, just like the shirt on what repping K1 right here, because the K1 brand, they're the only ones that still have the balls to do the real 8-man one-night Grand Prix tournaments, and that's what I love. I mean, I love the one-night tournaments. It's just so much fun, and K1's the only one still doing the real 8-man one-night Grand Prix where they have three full fights in one night. So I'm going with Takeru. I'm going with the K1 guys. And those are my picks.
Yes. Okay. So you think Takeru? Do you think he knocks him out, or do you think it goes 3 rounds, or do you think he even goes to the extended round?
I'm hoping it goes for an extension round so we get more. I can't believe they didn't make it 5 rounds and like a title fight, but what can you do? At least it's getting made. So I'm saying it's going to go the distance. Takeru's going to outpoint and may possibly go to an extension round, and Takeru will come out on top on points.
Are you happy with the three rounds, 3-minute, or did you want to see? That's the thing I see everybody seems to hate, is that that's that type of rule set. Do you wish it was longer or more rounds?
Yes, I wish it was 5 rounds with an extension round, just like the title fights. And just the longer they can be in there fighting, the better, I think, because this is the 2 best of the J-Kick era, of the new era of J-Kick fighters. This is the 2 very best of that, and I just wanted to go on as long as possible and be as fun as possible for the fans and the fighters alike. I mean, I just can't wait.
What do you think happens though as soon as this fight? Well, obviously, Tenshin's going to go into boxing, and then Takeru, it's likely, I'll say, that it looks like he's maybe going to retire. I mean, because who else is he going to face after? There's really like nobody else. So, assuming he retires, what do you think happens to J-Kick after that?
I think it'll be okay. I mean, look, like I said, K1 is still doing 8-man one-night Grand Prix. They just had one recently where it was a heavyweight Grand Prix, and one of their fighters that's on the card, I forget what his name is.
Cena, the Iranian guy, right?
Yes, it looks like it says Karamian.
Cena Karamian. Yeah.
Yeah, he just won the K1 8-man one-night tournament for heavyweights, and it was a lot of fun. So, I mean, I think as long as they keep running those 8-man one-night Grand Prix, I think it'll be just fine. I don't think Takeru needs to retire at all. I think he can just sit back and wait for the next person that wins eight-man one-night Grand Prix in his weight class, and that can be the next challenger for Takeru. Tenshin, I wish him the best of luck in boxing. I hope he becomes a big star, and I would like him to come back to kickboxing someday after he gets a bunch of that boxing money. And even, I would like it if he could do both at the same time. You know what I mean? And I still would actually like him even to go into mixed martial arts as well. Remember, he had a couple Epic Rising matches
Oh,
that
he's
were
called
mixed martial
that
arts?
last fight though, the Yamato Fujita, he said that like after that fight, he said he is not prepared for mixed martial arts, and I think he lost that fight, but that's just me. There are people also thought that he lost to Rotang. Let's not get into that.
Yeah, yeah, it's subjective, but I mean, I just love it. I mean, he's a big Tenshin's a star. He's a star in Japan, and like CJ was saying, you need the Japanese stars to get the Japanese market interested in the products, but you also, to piggyback on his point, you need those international fighters, and you need the Japanese stars facing the international fighters. That's how Sakuraba became big, was beating the guys like Rampage, and you know what I mean. He was beating international fighters, and that's what made him big. Gracie, of course, he was a Gracie killer. I mean, that's how they became big. So I think that Tenshin, like I said, I wish him the best of luck in boxing, and I hope he does return to kickboxing, or possibly does both one day. And Takeru, I do not want him to retire. I want him to sit back and wait for someone in his weight class to win an epic 8-man one-night Grand Prix and be the next challenger to him. And that's what I'd like to see happen.
What about Takeru getting into MMA? Would you want to see that?
I would love that. That would be so awesome. I would absolutely love that. I mean, dude, Takeru is a huge star over there. Both of them are huge stars. And just to have Takeru cross over to mixed martial arts, I would, how I feel about my kickboxing crossovers. I've always loved them. I mean, I've loved them ever since the Almighty Pride FC days. And, it's just, even before that, I was loving the kickboxing crossovers. Like I was talking to you before we came on the air, Sammy Schilt. I remember Sammy Schilt when he was fighting in UFC, and then when he fought in Pride, I mean, I just loved it. So I can't wait. And I hope that does happen with Takeru coming over to mixed martial arts. That'd just be awesome and be huge for hopefully he goes Epic Rising. That'd be huge for the brand.
So I mean, why is this fight? Why is Takeru versus Tenshin so significant to you as a J-Kick and JMA fan?
Because we've been watching these guys' careers for develop for probably over a decade now. You know what I mean? We saw them, and this fight has been building for at least 5 years, right? I mean, we've been talking about this matchup for so long, and all the doom and gloomers saying it would never happen, it's never going to happen, they can't get it done, blah blah blah. And it just look, hope springs eternal, and it's happening now, and it's going to be so fun. I just can't wait. And look at how successful it already is. It's huge over there. They're charging crazy ticket prices, and people are it's already a sold out show. And it's just so frustrating that they didn't do an international stream, because like we were saying earlier, we had money ready in hand for them to take. We were ready to give it to them. This was, dude, they could have charged us $40. We would have paid that no problem. I mean, it's a huge fight, and it's one that we've wanted for a long time, for years, that we wanted this to happen. And it's going to be so significant. I just can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I think I'll ask that outright, since we already brought up numerous times. No legal international streaming. How do you plan to watch it? If you choose to divulge information, and just what do you think about that? There is, whoever's fault it is, if you want to put blame, you're more than welcome to. But what do you think about this whole thing about not streaming a fight this big to anybody outside Japan legally?
I think it's a huge mistake. I think they're just leaving money on the table. I think look at the reaction to when they posted about, like, on Beyond Kick's Twitter, talking about that the international stream's not happening. Just all these replies go, what do you mean? No, people were just so upset, and there was like at least dozens, if not hundreds, of replies saying that people were willing. Dude, those are people who were going to pay for the stream. So they're just leaving money on the table. I think it's just a huge mistake. And I'm not going to, like, I'll watch it if there's a stream. I'm not going to name off the sites that stream it, but if there's a stream, I'll watch it. But, without the replay available, I don't know if I can stay up, because I'm pretty sure this is going to go till, in the late night of Japan time, which is really early morning for me. So I'd have to stay up all night to probably about 6, 7 in the morning.
You got 16 fights, and I guarantee that, like, how they, like, the walkout for Tenshin Takeru is probably going to be like, they're going to come out with some special walkouts. This ain't going to be them just walking out by themselves with their team.
Oh, it's going to be huge. I mean, what I'm thinking about doing personally, I'm thinking about watching the first couple bouts, and then waking up early in the morning to see if I can catch the main events. And that's probably how I watch it. I don't know. Look, if there's a stream available, if we find a stream that's a good stream, I'll try to make it through the whole thing. But I mean, like, without there being a concrete international stream, you know, normally so I'm on the West Coast time, and I have to make a plan and prepare to watch these shows. Every single Epic Rising event, I've always, you know, prepared ahead of time, well ahead of time, so I could stay up late and watch the whole show live. And I would be doing the same for this if I knew for sure there was going to be, you know, a legal stream that we could pay to watch with a replay. I would for sure, you know, prepare so I could stay up all night. But now, since it's so uncertain that we don't know if there's going to be a stream that's going to last for the whole night, it's just like, dude, so I really need, because I'm getting old now, so it's like, it's really hard to, dude, staying up all night takes a toll on me now. You know what I mean? Like, it takes, before it was like nothing. I mean, dude, back in the original Pride 2000 Grand Prix, that was the first televised one. When that one was on, dude, we stayed up. We didn't even know it was going to go all night, but we were able to make it all through that one all night, and then we ditched school the next day. But I can't do that now. You know what I mean? I got stuff I got to do the next day. So, you know, without preparation, I don't know if I can go all night for this one, but I'm going to give it the old college try, probably. I think, because I don't want to miss out on this. So I'm going to be watching as much as I can with everybody and having a good time watching it with everybody, being in the Beyond Kick Discord and talking with everybody on Twitter and stuff. And, you know, I'll try to make it through the whole thing. But, you know, like I said, without that guaranteed international stream, it's just, I don't know. I'm probably just going to, you know, I'll watch as much as I can and then try to get up early and make sure I make the main event. Otherwise, I'll just watch the highlights afterwards on Twitter the next day.
Do you think that this fight has gotten, I guess, the deserved coverage or the right amount of eyes internationally? Or do you
Not
think
at all.
it's being underserved?
No, it's definitely being underserved. This is such a huge fight. I've always seen any articles about it. I mean, besides you, the great work you're doing, you know, a couple other people that talk about, like Rocket Hitman, Korea Fan, Cerebral Vigilante, the Drake Riggs from Mania was talking about, but I haven't seen the article about it yet. So, I mean, it's like, it's just, it deserves way more, you know, attention than it's getting over here. But again, without that international stream, it's like, why would they talk about it if there's, you know, it's just like a big, you know, tease if we can't watch it, you know what I mean? So, but at the same time, it does definitely deserve more attention, more coverage than what it's getting, for sure.
Now, of course, are you looking forward to any other fights on this?
Oh, absolutely.
Massive,
Yes,
massive
absolutely.
card that's going to go like 10 hours.
Oh man, there are so many good bouts in this card. And like I said, I love how they got it matched up, the K1 guys versus the Rise guys. I think that's so fun. And I'm of course, I'm looking forward to, let me scroll through. I got Nori, my boy Nori with his knees, the co-main event. Can't wait for that one. Yaman, dude, Yaman is a star from Epic Rising.
So if you don't mind me asking, what do you think of the whole thing of Yaman and his opponent at the press conference where Yaman like made it like tried to like dive in and attack him, and the security guard like pulled his shoulder, blocked him, and like Yaman like smacked his head like across like on the table. What do you think of that whole thing?
Oh, I loved it. That was one of the biggest stories from the initial press conference. Remember? I just loved it. It brought even more hype to the event.
And you saw Sakakibara's face. You saw that someone captured Sakakibara's face where he's like,
he was loving it. He knew that was going to be big attention from that one. And then also besides Yaman, we got our boy Bay Noah from Epic Rising, a crossover fighter, definitely a Rise champion. Definitely looking forward to his bout, of course. And then just, dude, there's so many. And then, you know, Tenshin's little brother, or is it little brother or cousin?
No, it's his brother. It's his brother, Ryujin.
Yeah, it's his little brother. Definitely looking to see how he does. You know, just there's so many good bouts on here, but those are the big main ones for sure. And just, you know, I guess the Nakamura Pettis is going to be awesome. I mean, there's I'm scrolling through the Tapology of this and just looking at it. It's just an amazing card. I just can't wait. I hope I'm able I hope we're able to find a stream, and I hope I'm able to make it through the whole card with you guys. It's just gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Now, I'm curious to know, do you think there's anybody who should have been on this card that you would have liked to have seen?
No, you know, I'm happy that he got the most recent heavyweight K1 Grand Prix winner the Iranian Cena on there.
Yep.
I'm happy they put him on there. I mean, maybe I would have liked a little bit more heavyweights on there, but I mean, it's just, it's cool. They got a bunch of big names. Like I said, they got Nori. The main one though, the match, Takeru and Tenshin. I mean, that's the one. So that's what we're all tuning in for. So, I mean, you can't really complain about there not being enough name power on this event when they got those two big stars in the main event. So
Now,
I
of
think they
course,
did a great job.
you watched Mayweather and Pacquiao live, probably, right?
Yes.
Yes. We sometimes have flashbacks to like, the worst outcome for a highly high. What's the worst outcome that could happen for this match?
Oh, the same thing that happened with Mayweather Pacquiao. It becomes a boring, just hardly any strikes are thrown, and it's like, I mean, I could deal with technical point fighting if it was, a lot of it during the match, during the 3 rounds. If there was a lot of striking, a lot of technical point fighting, but if it's going to be like a boring, just every once in a while throwing a strike for just 3 minutes, wasting a lot of time, then that'd probably be the worst case scenario. I think just a boring, low strike output fight. That would be, I think that'd be disastrous. But I cannot see that happening. I mean, both these guys are they're action fighters. Takeru is an action fighter. Tenshin's an action fighter. I mean, they're both proven exciting. We've seen both of these guys put on just sensational performances. So I just can't see it being a boring bout. I mean, even if it's a technical striking battle, I just can't see it being boring no matter what. It just that would just be a huge shock to me. Just like the Mayweather Pac-Man Mayweather bout, that was a huge shock to me. And then we come to find out later on that there was like a shoulder injury or something, and Pacquiao didn't want to get a shot to get his shoulder right or whatever the stuff was. I mean, that if there's something like that happens with this bout with like Tenshin or Takeru, then I could see something like that happening. But if they're going into it like 100% healthy, ready to go, it's going to be exciting no matter what. It's just this awesomeness has been brewing for a long time. This is a long time coming, and it's going to deliver the goods. I can feel it.
I was going to say you should have said the worst case scenario is that on June 18th, Tokyo Dome says, "Oh wait, you know what? There's too much controversy with this whole Yakuza thing. We can't have the show anymore."
Oh God! Don't even put that in the air. Don't even put that out in the universe. Don't even finish that sentence. Oh my God, that'd be the absolute nightmare scenario right there. That would just be devastating. But I don't think they would do that. That would just be ridiculous because they've already sold the tickets. They sold the tickets. I mean, how many? Countless pay-per-view.
They're not giving away 30. They're not going to cancel a show that sold a $30,000 ticket or whatever it was.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Does this feel like the end of an era almost to you? Does this feel like kind of like,
No,
because this is a fight that everybody, it was always Tenshin Takeru, and now that it's finally happens, like what happens after? You know what I'm saying?
I feel like look, I've always been, how I've been going on and on that we were entering a new golden era. I mean, we're entering a new golden era of combat sports right now, like just across the board. And I feel like this is just the beginning. This is like the culmination of years of fans, clamoring for this fight. And now it's happening. And I feel like it's just going to kick off the interest in this, and the whole card is so awesome. It's going to kick off a whole huge fan interest in the J-Kick scene. And and K1 is still doing their thing. They still have the 8-man one night Grand Prix, those are fun all the time. I just love them. And the Rise is doing awesome shows as well with high level talent, putting on excellent action packed fights. And it's just, I feel like we're entering a new golden era. And the EPIC RIZIN we're over the COVID era finally, and we're getting international fans gradually international fighters gradually coming back. And you watch, dude, they're collaborating with the mighty Bellator. And when the international fighters start coming back, especially in K1 as well, and K1 and Rise, when they get international guys back in there and RIZIN, dude, it's going to take it to the next level. And I just think, I remember the golden eras. Like, to me, the golden eras was the original UFC. That was the golden era. And then for like 12 or 15 UFCs, whatever it was. And then when the politicians, they got scared. When they found out they got scared, they cut the balls off it, said it was human cockfighting, whatever, put rules in there and everything. Just and ruined it, and then made it not awesome. That was the end of that first golden era. And then the Pride era with Pride and K1. That was so much fun. That was like the pinnacle of this sport. When Pride and K1, the Dynamite, that was 2002. They scored 91,000 fans at the Tokyo Olympic Stadium, I think it was. And that was, those shows, that era was so much fun. From 2000 when it started to 2007 when it ended. That was the golden era. And then it was just so much fun. And then now we were building back up to that. And then when Sakakibara-san announced that EPIC RIZIN was coming back in 2015, that with the Pride people, it was coming back. And then, they were building up since then. And then K1 was they went away for a little bit. But then, like I said, that's where I got the shirt. 2012, they were in America, in LA, and we were there. And it was a sold out, well, I don't know if it was sold out, but it was pretty full. It was a lot of fun. And then they were still doing shows every once in a while. Glory was still doing shows. I know people are upset that Glory was like losing a little bit of but I'm telling you, with K1 still doing the 8-man one night Grand Prix, and Rise is still putting on. Dude, the Rise shows are just absolutely solid. They're a lot of fun. So I think that the state of the J-Kick is strong. And with this bout right here, this super fight, it's a true super fight. It's going to have so much interest. And I just feel like it's going to kick off a new goal. Like, we are entering a new golden era. I've been saying that, but dude, it's true. We are kicking down the door to the new golden era, and it's here. And you're going to see after this bout, what the aftermath is that it's going to be J-Kick is alive and well. There's going to be renewed interest. This is going to have huge fan interest, and especially in the Japanese market. And K1 still does 8-man one night Grand Prix with renewed interest. People are going to be watching it. There's going to be new stars created. Like I was saying, I was hoping that Takeru doesn't retire. He waits for someone to win an 8-man one night Grand Prix in his weight class, and then he'll challenge him. I just think the future is very bright. And with the international fighters coming back, it's just the sky's the limit. And I think that there's going to be a new golden era now, and the access that we have. The access is incredible. We in this day and age, you can stream everything. You see everything. Like back in the day, we had to
not everything almost. Like,
yeah, I mean, the super fight, they won't even stream that for us. But it's like, dude, pretty much there's always going to be a stream for most of the stuff that most of these fights nowadays. And before, we didn't even get to watch the prelims before. You know what I mean? We only got to see the main events. The main card on like like as recently as the mid 2000s. You know what I mean? Like the UFC events, they weren't even showing the freaking prelims for a long. And now, dude, now we got a UFC on almost every single weekend. We got Bellator, we got EPIC RIZIN, we got Combate Global, Invicta with the women. We got this two top J-Kick promotions, Rise and K1 going strong. Glory's still chugging along, with the heavier weight classes. I mean, dude, I'm telling you guys, it's the future is bright. I truly believe we're entering a new golden era. That's what I believe. This is kicking the door down.
Okay, so adding on to that golden era, this is the first time that, well, I should say it's not really the first time that K1 and RIZIN technically have worked together. Remember they did, remember when RIZIN had all the flags, but let's just K1 and Rise and RIZIN adjacent are working together. Do you think that this should be something that K1, and Rise, just something like a yearly thing, K1 versus Rise, take the best, of K1, take the best of Rise, and, every year is just like, is just some sort of big super kickboxing thing. And do you think that should be that this idea of the K1 versus Rise thing should be a yearly thing? This shouldn't be the only time it ever happens.
No, it should not be the only time it ever happens, because this is so much fun already. I'm so intrigued. Like I was telling you, I love how they did the K1 versus Rise in the whole card. It just makes it that much more fun. And that's a great idea, Drew, to have this once a year, have the best in Rise versus the best in K1. That's just, dude, that'd be just so. They better give an international stream though, because I want to give them my money. I want to pay for this. I love it. This is awesome. I think that would be awesome. What I would personally like them to do? I would like them to go back to how it was when the almighty Pride FC and K1 were ruling the world. They were better than UFC, kicking the UFC's ass. They beat the snot out of the UFC back in the day. they were ruling the world. That's what I would like them to do. Go back to the Dynamite style and have, you know, the K1 and Rise guys and the biggest K1 and Rise guys and the biggest Epic Rizin fighters on the same card, have big Dynamite shows again. I mean, those were just so much fun back, and I loved it. I don't know if you saw when Bellator and Glory did a Dynamite style event in San Jose.
Yes, it was
That
actually
was-
it was one of the lowest rated programs that they put on TV. I don't know. That's why Scott Coker said we were never doing that ever again, because
It was
nobody did.
that's terrible that it was so low rated. We were there at the arena. The Mania crew, we actually had a Mania meetup there, and we had about 20 to 30 people meet up there, and we went to that event, and it was so much fun. It was sold out. It was so loud. I mean, they had the cage and the ring together. They were having they had you know how Scotty Cokes likes to do the post limbs. For the post limbs, they were having mixed martial arts and kickboxing events happening at the same time. The both bouts were going, and it was just, dude, it was so much fun. We stayed till the entire end. I mean, and the crowd didn't even dissipate that much after the show was over. The crowd was still there.
Wait, is
watching
it Dynamite 1 or Dynamite 2, you said?
No, oh, this is the Bellator Dynamite in San Jose.
Okay, yes. Okay, so
That's a shame
Dynamite
that you
1.
said that the Dynamite 1, the one in Japan, that was in 2000. Well, I don't know if it was Dynamite 1 or 2. I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but I just remember it was a Dynamite event that scored 91,000 fans, and it was K1 and Pride, and that, dude, it was huge, and it was so much fun at the time. It was glorious, and dude, I would love them to do that again. That's what I love your idea of having you know, the Rise versus K1 guys once a year, but I would also like them to throw in some Epic Rizin bouts as well, and just have Dynamite events as well. I mean, I just think that the Dynamite events, they were just so much fun. I would love them to bring it back. And, you know, Scotty Cokes, that dude, his effort with Glory, that Dynamite, the Bellator Dynamite, it might not have gotten the ratings on TV, but it was so much fun. I'm telling you, that was one of the best events I've ever been to. It was so much fun, and the whole Mania crew loved it. And the Mania crew was they're UFC first fans basically, and they just loved it, dude. That was one of the best Mania meetups that we've ever had, and it was just so much fun. And that was in the modern era, kind of. That was like 2014, 2015, wasn't it? And it was just, dude, it was so fun. So I think if they do it again nowadays, it would still be fun. And I love that idea, Drew. You say do it once a year, and yeah, I think they should do that. And just make it do the Dynamite shows. It just bring back the Dynamite brand. It would just be awesome. It would be awesome. It truly would be epic.
As we come to a close on this, I would like to ask you just any final thoughts on the match, Takeru, Tenshin, anything else, just like go off.
Yes, you know, I'm just so happy that it's actually happening, and I commend Sakakibara-san, the K1 brass and the Rise brass for coming together, putting aside any differences and actually getting it done for the fans. I just commend them and thank them, and I'm so happy, and I just cannot wait. And you know, it's a shame that someone tried to sabotage it like they did Pride with the you know, dropping the Yakuza story. But this one's even worse now, because this one apparently CJ said that they sat on this story since 2020 and chose to wait now until the match to drop this story and try to blackmail Sakakibara-san. I mean, that's just, dude, that just makes me so upset. And it's like, I just like I said, I want them to waterboard that blackmailer and find out if you know, like my theory was that Dana White and them ratted them out for the first time when they dropped the Yakuza story that ruined Pride, because Pride was about to break into the American market, and when that story dropped and ruined them. So I and you know, Dana White has he was a Welch. He welched on a bet to the K1 and Pride people when Chuck Liddell got his ass whipped over there with Dana Court ringside, and sent them running, tail tucked between his legs like a whipped dog back home. And he welched on a bet that night. And I wonder if that made him butthurt to when Pride was about to take over the American market, that he ratted him out. That's why I want this blackmailer, whoever sat on this story since 2020, and tried to sabotage the match the same way they tried to sabotage Pride. I want him waterboarded, and I want to find out who was behind it and what because that dude, the fact that the Fuji TV dropped it, it's terrible. It's terrible for, I mean, it's terrible for the fighters, terrible for the fans. It's just, and it's like it's rewarding blackmailers, and it's a mistake from Fuji TV, just like HBO dropping boxing was a mistake for HBO. And I'm hoping that Fuji TV will come to regret that and will bring them back eventually. So, I mean, but
How funny
anyway,
would it be if
answer your
this
question.
Mr. Y guy is one who bought the $30,000 ticket or whatever the most
Yeah.
expensive ticket. That would be the most ironic thing, that he wanted front row seats and he decided to splurge $30,000 on.
Oh God, no.
on this.
If he's ringside, take him. Get the security, take him in the back and waterboard him while the show's going on. Find out who put him up to ratting him out. If it was freaking Dana White and them again. So, but no, just to finish on the point that I was trying to make is that, you know, all that controversy aside, I just want to commend Sakakibara-san, the K1 guy, I forget what his name is right now, and the Rise guy.
Nakamura.
Yes, I want to thank them and commend them for making this happen. It's awesome, and I love it, and I can't wait to see how it's going to play out the whole card. And I'm so happy for the fans, so happy for the sport, combat sports as a whole, and I'm just happy. I just can't wait, and I think it's kicking off a new golden era in combat sports. I love it.
And where can people follow all of your good stuff, JayWolf, Epic JayWolf?
Oh, thanks, brother. Yeah, just on Twitter. You know, all you gotta do is be a real person and follow me on Twitter, and I'll follow you right back if you're a real person. You know what I mean? And you can follow my @ is the same as it was from the Yahoo boards. You know, way back in 06 or 07, whenever I started commentating on the Yahoo boards. It's @ JAYYOLF1, and that's how you know it's me, because it's misspelled. Because back when I first started the name, it was, you know, that's my name and my spirit animal, Jay and Wolf. But there was like 20 other JayWolves on Yahoo back in the day. So I was like, man, I didn't want to be like JayWolf 26 or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna misspell it, and then that's how you know it's me. And I just kept it for the longest time. So, and that's, if you want to follow me, I'll follow you right back, as long as you're a real person. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate, you know, you listening to us, and appreciate you having me on, Drew. And I just appreciate it so much. This is just awesome. I just love it. I can't wait.
Oh, I guess, you know, since I'm talking to you before, everybody I'll be talking to after the fight, but I gotta ask, Jiri versus Glover, what do you think?
Oh, I love it. I cannot. This is my most anticipated UFC of the year so far. There is so much that, like, dude, think of all the narratives that are happening right now that are going to be decided with this bout. Is the EPIC Rising? Is it going to be proven? If Jiri wins, that's going to prove that the EPIC Rising and superior rule set is a superstar producing factory. Okay, that will prove that the EPIC Rising and superior rule set produces superstar UFC champions, because Jiri is a superstar. And I am so jealous that Dana White poached him from EPIC Rising. That's right. Dana White poached him from EPIC Rising. He didn't just sign him. He poached him. I want Jiri to still be in EPIC Rising, kicking ass. But dude, it's going to be so cool if he becomes UFC champion. It's going to prove the EPIC Rising is a superstar factory, and it prove the superior rule set produces superstar, just like the Almighty Pride FC did. And, you know, and then if Glover wins, you know, that means that Bellator has the best light heavyweight in the world, because Corey Anderson absolutely dominated and schooled Glover. And there's no getting around it. If Glover wins, the best light heavyweight is in Bellator. So it's like, I just love the narratives of this bout. It's like, you know, each door I get something I want. It's like, you know, I love the fact that if Jiri wins, I love Jiri. Jiri's a superstar to me, and if he wins, it proves EPIC Rising superior rule set is UFC champ level. But if Glover wins, then that proves that Bellator has the best light heavyweight in the world, and that there's talent outside the UFC undeniably. And it's just, I just love the implications for the narrative that going into this bout. It's just so fun. I can't wait. That's my most anticipated UFC of the year. I just can't wait. It's gonna be so fun.
And you heard all from JayWolf. Please give him a follow. And now we go on to the next interviewee.
All right, thanks, brother. Appreciate.
And we are
Okay, here we
live.
go.
We're here live with Daniel from Poland. I cannot pronounce your last name ever, so I'll just call you Daniel from Poland.
Hello, guys. Hello, everyone. We are looking forward to the Sunday's show. I don't know how we will watch it, but I'm sure that we will watch it. Nobody fucking stop us.
Yeah, here's the thing. That's the one thing I've learned about J Kick, JMMA, J Combat Sports fans, that despite the abuse, the betrayals, the backstabbings that we all go through, we still somehow always come back. You know, I don't know, for better or for worse.
Yeah, you know, it's like like in 2007. I need only the you know, avoiding the spoilers and then going to the forums and looking for a rips for fight2life.net and stuff like this. It's fucking ridiculous. Sorry, but we have 2022. We have streaming service. We have strong internet connection. We shouldn't have an actions like this, but everything was said about this, and you know, we don't know if it's Abima thing and if it's K1 rights thing. We don't know. We don't know. Maybe Japanese guys. There are 3 promoters, in fact, and they want to have too much money from the international rights. We don't know. We can only guess.
Oh no! Well, you know that obviously when you saw that news, when you saw the big headline on Beyond Kickboxing, no international streaming, were you just sad? Were you angry? Were you disappointed? Well, did you go through the 7 stages of grief when you saw that?
Could you repeat?
Oh, sorry. Did you go through the 7 stages of grief when you saw the no international streaming? Like, you know, the 7 stages of grief are sadness, anger, and eventually, like, the last one is acceptance.
Oh yeah. But I did not see it, I think. No, but it's great. Yes.
So I
can imagine it.
Yeah. So I gotta ask Daniel. So Takeru Tenshin finally happened. Did you ever think it was gonna happen, or did you always think that this was gonna just be literally a dream fight that would never happen?
To be honest, I was always I always believed that it has to be done something. Yeah, even when I was listening Shuhiratas and Charlie Jewett podcast, in one of the episodes, Shu said that something is, they are doing something to do it. But during the autumn, the November or something like this, I was a bit doubtful if it even will happen, because it was scheduled that Tenshin will have his last kickboxing fights in Rise in March, I think, in El Dorado, and it was so short of time, and we knew that's the month to the New Year's Eve when this fight can potentially be done. But suddenly in the end of the December, the miracle happened. But during that whole month, we were happy. And also, we received magnificent fight card. It's something unbelievable. And you know, by the way, the match thing is some kind of you can compare it to the WrestleMania, when there are SmackDown and Raw, and there's the one show when the two worlds collide. But okay, this is the WWE, this is the one brand, and this is, you know, artificial rivalry. But I can tell you a different thing. Maybe it's like Dynamite 2009, Dream against Sengoku, the MMA, the match version. It's a mini version of the match, because we had something like 9 bouts, yes, because Dream won 5-4. And this is stuff like this. You can also compare it to the mini series Rising against Bellator. I don't know if there are.
I definitely think it's better, bigger than Ryzen versus Bellator.
Definitely. You have almost all cards dedicated to the K1 against Rise. Okay, we have Noiri against Kaito. And Kaito is a shoot boxing represent, but we all know that his last fight took place in Rise when he knocked out Beinoa. So you can treat him like a Team Rise member. I know that. Yeah, I know that we have the same with one of the Ebata's brothers, with Mutsuki. I think it was an SNKA logo on the fight graphic.
Yeah.
But in fact, he's fighting in Rise. That's two Japanese guys who's fighting the Iranians.
Yeah, Yamashita
and Uchida.
Uchida, yes. Uchida, don't forget, he's fought in Ryzen before. He's
yes.
But Yamashita is like totally freelance. He's only fought for like the Hoos Cup.
Yes. He is total local guy, and Yamashita is full contact karate specialist. But he's a veteran of stuff like Host Cup. But Uchida fought as well as MMA fighter. He was a reserve bout fighter competitor from to the first Rising Grand Prix, and he lost with I don't know if it wasn't Valentin Moldavsky. I'm not. I don't know. I'm sure, but I'm sure that he lost with some Russian guy in the reserve bout, and then I don't know if you remember it. I think Uchida appeared as a kickboxer. It was.
I think it was like, hey, you want to do us a favor, be MMA fighter? Sure, we'll give you a kickboxing fight type. Well, it seems like because he got a kickboxing match, a few shows later. So it's like, thank you for doing that. We'll give you a much more easier fight.
Yeah, I think I have to check it, but I'm almost yes, it is. He fought at Yarynoka 2018. It was that surprise event, additional event, New Year's event of Rising, and he won with Takuma Konishi. I've checked Takuma Konishi by the way, and Konishi was fighting in stuff. He was weighing 75 kilos, and then he gained some weight, and he ended up with Uchida in 92 kilo catchweight. So
it's funny. I'm surprised that. I know that Rise doesn't have a heavyweight division, but when you brought up the Iranian Sina Karminian and Musari, I think his name is. That's how you pronounce that.
Mahmoud Satari.
Yeah, Satari. And I'm surprised because Rise has who the Brazilian. I think it's Brazilian. I think.
Today you posted it on the Twitter.
I was like, oh, I realized he could have been on this card. He could have fought one of the. Sina or Satari.
From the other hand, seeing his technique, I don't think he would be succeed in this fight. But from the other hand, he was really strong. His pressure, because I don't remember that the name of the Japanese that he beat last time. But I remember that the Japanese was one of the best heavier weight classes, fighters, newcomers in Japan, and someone said that he even aims to fight in glory, because I think he is normally he aims to fight in 85 kilo division, but he got annihilated by the Galbraith.
Galbraith, thank you. I was trying to remember. Yeah. I think at that show, at that Rise show, he knocked him. Was that he was a fight where he got knocked across the ring with a jab, right?
Yeah. Something like this.
Listen, I still would like to have seen him versus either Iranian gentlemen, even though they probably would outclass him like significantly.
Yeah. But you know, both Cena and Saptari are cruiserweight fighters. And both guys right now on Sunday they are fighting in a higher weight limit because cruiserweight is 90 kilo, and they will fight in official K1 heavyweight. It's minus 100.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but the old K1, FEG's K1, introduced the two championship belts, minus 100 and plus. My Polish involved. Minus 100 and plus 100. And I think and this is the continuation because the new K1 introduced it. I think it's the last year when they've introduced officially the heavyweight and the super heavyweight division, like in the FEG's K1, the old K1. And it's interesting. What's interesting about the Iranians? I think this is. I'm more than sure that later this year they will clash. And I think this will be for Karimian's 90 kilo belt, 90 kilo K1 belt, because Saptari is 90 kilo crush champ. So I think they want to prepare them to that clash. Moreover, from what I know, Saptari left Wirasakrek, Fertex gym, and is trying to make a transition to MMA. So I think this is the final year for him as a kickboxer. Too bad, because I would even see him in glory, but I don't know how what's his natural weight. If he have to, if 90 kilo is his natural weight, he could easily drop to 85 kilos, and Glory needs 85 kilo guys. But as I said, probably this is his last year as a kickboxer, because right now he's training in some UFC gym in Japan. And we all know that UFC gyms are just more like a franchise thing, not like a central network.
There's a reason why all those Chinese fighters who train at the UFC PI don't win their fights when they fight.
Yeah, but it's a totally different thing.
But let's not bury the lead though. Takeru versus Tenshin. I gotta ask, who do you think wins, and how do you think the fight goes?
Today I've made some analysis of the styles of both fighters, and I don't know what to start about. The Tenshin styles has changed from the couple of years. The 2019 was his last year of dominant performances, when he was scoring knockouts, lots of knockouts, yeah. And the fight with Rui Abata, which I've seen live, it was the last, maybe not last one, but this is the end of some era. I don't know if I'm not sure if in the next fights during that 2 years towards today, if his opponents was that good prepared. I've noticed, I've made some notes that it leads to the to the word that they are more prepared. For example, Kazane was really good prepared to the Tenshin, because and he watched lots of his fights.
They also trained together. That they were at Tempe.
Oh yeah. This is forgot about it. Yeah, but definitely true. And this was the first advantage. But second advantage was that I saw that he really watched some fights of Tenshin. This is one fun thing, because Tenshin's fight against Kyoji was very influential. One of the most influential fights for both guys later. Why? Because Kazane did an action with that long straight right, efficient straight right from the distance, like Kyoji did during their fight. From the other hand, Sergio Pettis, who fought with Kyoji, made an action which has ended the fight after that spinning back fist. It did exactly the same thing as Tenshin did in this fight, but Tenshin couldn't finish the fight with this action, but Pettis did it. And you see how influential this fight was. But I've back to the analyst talk. Tenshin was doing lots of spinning things, lots of body attacks, lots of kick grabs, and lots of unorthodox stuff like senchai kicks, like rolling thunder kicks, spinning back fists, and it cost all the things that cost. Of course, he's really fast. He's always he's always faster than his opponents was. That's also the fact he was winning in the spectacular way. What also, he really feels the distance. He has a great footwork, and what causes that his opponents was unable to close him on the ropes or in the corner, because of the amazing footwork. He was always escaped. He was escaping from the corner, and after the years of lots of spectacular fights, something has changed, and you could see in his last fights that he was throwing less long combos, less leg grabbing and then counters. Overall, less throwing of everything, less body punches. He was doing. Sorry. In pre-2020 era, as I would say, as I would call it. He often was even starting his offensive actions or counters from the body punch. This is the thing that I saw that later was more not that often as before, as in the 2019 and earlier.
Didn't he get injured? Didn't he break his hand or do something to one potentially? Was that him, or am I getting that mixed up with Takeru?
Takeru was breaking his hands frequently, yeah.
Is it possible that because Tenshin is going to boxing and it's just a different style, is it possible that he's kind of he's doing less of that flashy stuff and less of all that stuff because he's trying to get acclimated to more of a boxing.
Yes, but the last thing that I saw during his latest fights, that he's throwing less punches, and he's sometimes he just not attack more, that he's not pushing his opponent. He's making a counter, opponent is making a counter, and he just goes back. In the, let's say, old times, he would push more his opponents, and he would try to throw more punches and kicks. During that 2-year period to the present day, I have a feeling that he's more balanced, as you said. Maybe I'm wrong, but increased typical boxing trainings that made that he's less dynamic, because in boxing, okay, there's major, there are major differences between footwork in kickboxing and boxing. You have to be much more dynamic in kickboxing, especially in K1 rules. We don't say about Muay Thai, because in terms of footwork is totally different thing. But especially watching the Tenshin, pre-2020 Tenshin, you saw that he's doing magnificent work on his feet by his footwork, and then he has to train more boxing. The proportions of drills and overall trainings went to the boxing thing, and then he changed his style, because it's a natural thing. If you are doing less typical kickboxing training and do more typical punching boxing drills, you have to change your style. But from the other hand, you can see in some later fights that he's trying to do some old tricks, like rolling thunder kicks, like in fights with Kazane or Masahiko Suzuki, and you can see that they seems to be much better prepared. Okay, we know that Kazane is training with Tenshin, but from the other hand, Masahiko Suzuki is not training with him, and from the other hand, they seems to be better prepared. But in my opinion, it's one thing, but the second thing that is he's maybe a bit less dynamic.
Now, with that information known, and also what you've seen on Takeru, who do you think wins? Who do you think gets their hand raised at the end?
Stylist, in terms of styles, Takeru Tenshin is a very bad matchup for Takeru. Maybe not very bad, but it's not the convenient opponent. First of all, Tenshin is a southpaw, and Takeru can't do his action when he's starting the offensive action with the front leg, with a low kick or middle kick, or even a front kick, and then go with his right punch. So the weight balance. You have your weight on the back leg during the kick, and after the kick, right after the kick, you are going with your right punch, and you are doing with your all body power. And that was one of the trademark actions of Takeru. Right now, on Sunday, he won't do this because his opponent is a southpaw, he will be countered in a very easy fashion, in my opinion. What he will do, he will try to go inside with Tenshin and try to arrange him into the brawl. And in this part of fighting, Takeru is very strong. He has very strong punches, and he based his fighting style on the hooks, on the head hooks and the body hooks. But when he has his opponent close, he don't allow him to escape usually. He just destroys his opponents by a swarm of hooks, closing them into the ropes or corner, and usually wins the fights. But there are fighters who even won the single rounds with Takeru in the past. But
he's unfortunately a slow starter. He's a slow starter, Takeru. Most of his finishes come
definitely
by the second or third rounds.
I would say that everything will be about if Tenshin will lose his mind and go for the brawl with Takeru. Leona Petas in his last fight, he has the abilities to maintain the distance between Takeru, but he lost his mind and he started to trade the punches with Takeru, which is certain death on the ring. If Tenshin will go inside with Takeru, everything can happen. Tenshin is very good in dodging punches. He has a very good head movement, so he can fight with Takeru in this in a close distance. But Takeru has a punching power, and as I said, he don't allow his opponents to escape. If Tenshin will maintain the distance, he will do his work on his trademark left straight cross. I think he will win by the decision. If Takeru will bring him into his rules, probably he will win, but I'm not sure. But I think that favorite in this fight is Tenshin.
So do you think it'll go the extension round as well, or you think it's just going to just go to 9 minutes?
To be honest, I can't imagine the extension round, but it's Japan.
Yeah. There's a reason. I said before, there's a reason why they put that extension round there, and something tells. I feel like unless somebody gets knocked out or 3 knockdowns, I feel like it's almost if it goes all 3 rounds, it's just gonna be going to the 4th round unless it's like unless it's like pure domination beyond just like either Tenshin or Takeru fucks up the other.
What I wanted to say about scoring system in Japan. Okay, this is a 10-point mass system as everywhere in the world, but very close fights. This fight can be very close. It has also a potential to be something like this. But usually the judges in Japan are not hesitate to have to give 10 rounds if nobody can show that he is visible better than his opponent. So I won't be surprised if there will be 3 close rounds. There will be 30-30 score, and then we will receive a 4th round. But as I said, anything can happen.
So with this fight, and probably the one fight that J-Kick fans have been wanting for a long time, it's being promoted as both the end of an era, but also the beginning of an era. And I'm curious to know how do you feel? Do you feel this is kind of like do you feel happy that's happening, but also potentially maybe feel also kind of bittersweet that's like, yeah, this is kind of like the signaling of an end of just this era of kickboxing that a lot of us kind of as adults grew up with in this generation?
Oh, this is a good question because from the let's don't talk about Tenshin and his retirement, yes, because I think that
Thank you for reminding me. Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you know, what's also put on the fact that probably Takeru is retiring. Tenshin's going into boxing, but Takeru looks like he's going to probably retire. So either way, it feels like they're done with kickboxing both from after this fight. They're both going to hang it up. So I'm sorry, but go ahead, answer.
to be honest, Takeru has I think he's 30 right now, something like this, but it's not about an age because you know Yasuhiro Kido is almost 40 or he's over 40 and he's fighting, yes, but it's more like the thing, more about the thing that we have talked about. He has lots of injuries, especially the hand injuries, and this can be a factor that he will lead to the retirement. Even if he will win this fight, he can fight a couple of years, but I'm not sure how long his career could be. If he will lose, I know that he was talking about potential retirement, and won't be surprised if he will do it because you know how old Masato was when he got retired. He could be the active professional fighter as well for the next years, but he quit on his prime or stuff like this, and I think it's really possible that he will retire.
So who do you think will be the next generation after these two? If there's anybody that you think can take up the mantle for K1 Rise?
If I would say about particular fighters, I won't do it right now, but I will set about the other side of JPIC, because if you will compare what the K1 and Rise was back in the, I don't know, 2014, stuff like this, and when Rise was had their events 10 years ago in the small gyms, like you know, recent Rise Fight Club. It was an open finger event. It was stuff like this. It was really small events, and Rise was like more like you know, host cup sized organization, and they were able to grow, and right now they can easily make the events in a quite big venues in Yoyogi first, in Ota General Gymnasium, in Edion Arena in Osaka, and 10 years ago no one would say that they will evolve like this, and the K1 is the same thing. With Karayev said all about the K1 brand story. This is basically crash on steroids right now, K1, and they could, if not this, if they would not grow as a brand, they would still be a monthly show in a Korakuen hall, and you know, in my opinion, from the what I would like to say, in my opinion, from that point, looking as they as they grown up, both organizations, there is no actual no actual back. You know, I don't think they will downgrade to the Korakuen Hall to the Korakuen Hall size events because they have lots of quality names. I know that Rise is a bit has a bit smaller roster than K1 have, but from the other hand, I see lots of really interesting and exciting new names on the horizon. You have some interesting names both in K1 and Rise, and I'm really interested how the Nakamura and Ito, the heads or the CEOs of both orgs, will deal with possible no Tenshin and no Takeru in the future.
So what I mean, we talked a little bit before, but any other fights that stick out? I think you said that Nori and Kaito you're looking forward to.
I will tell you what's my favorite fights on the cards besides of the main event. Definitely, it's Yaman against Ryusei Ashizawa. This is
what do you think of that whole thing that happened at the press conference? Did that make you more excited?
It was so fun, especially the photos with laughing Sakakibara.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's happening? Yeah, it's so funny. Whoa, baby, fireworks. But yeah, but it's you know. Besides of this, this whole trash talk, both guys are the guarantee of lots of fireworks, lots of exchanges, lots of knockdowns. You know, I know that Yaman said to Ashizawa that you're a pussy, you won't fight me in open finger gloves and stuff like this. You know, we all know that open finger gloves are 4 or 5 ounces. They will fight 6 ounces gloves. So it's almost the same right now. And I think this is some kind of people's main event, as the crew from the Beyond Kickboxing Discord has said, because this fight has everything to be the fight of the year. Because, you know, when we are speaking about Takeru and Tenshin once again, it could be very exciting, but as well as it could be very tactical. Yaman and Ashizawa has nothing to lose. They will stand and bang, and if there would be some equipment to measure the level of epicness, it would be fucking blown out during this fight. I think, and I'm convinced that it will. And this is my first favorite fight after the main event.
When you just said that, actually you brought up that, you know, that it could be fight year. I don't know. I think I Khan Nakamura, Leon Pes, because listen, I think that's going to be you know, you said technical before. That Tenshin and Takeru is going to be technical. I think most of the fights, I think 90% of the fights, minus the heavyweights, will be technical. But I think in the lower weight division of Pettis, Nakamura, because Nakamura, you know how he does. He likes to bait his opponents. He likes to fuck around with them, you know, and kind of bait them into, you know, like a gangland Yakuza video game like ball.
Yes, and you know. I saw their last fights. Leona, okay, he won with that Japanese tie, but we all know how his fight with Takeru looked like. And then we have Kan Nakamura. He scored a huge knockout in his last fight, and we all know and we all remember his legendary clash with Yaman. It was 3 rounds of war, and I expect really similar things from this fight. This fight, Kan Nakamura against Reona Kato, as the real name is, it is the real name of Leona, yeah. I think I expect the same things, similar things from this fight as from the Yamanashizawa, but Yamanashizawa will be a bit less technical and more like a hot-blooded guys clash. This Kan against Leona will be can be a bit more technical, but I expect the similar things as I said before.
Well, now quickly, I mean, well, we got also Masahiko Suzuki on the card. He's a Rise regular. We got Anpo, who's got an interesting cult following, I like to say. Let's see. There's so we talked about the heavyweights. I mean, there is not one bad fight on this card, really. There's like, and also, it doesn't feel like either organization are like, you know how in pro wrestling, or if you ever watch like New Japan or something, who's taking the pinfall in like a match, or like if it's a tag match or whatever. But it seems like both K1 and Rise are like, okay, we need to actually get our best guys to fight the other guys.
Yeah, I think so. This is this kind of fight. I would say, just reminded myself that New Japan Pro Wrestling sometimes co-promotes with Noah. But I have so much Noah propaganda on my Twitter line because of the Mark Pickering and Stuart Fulton, yes. And so I know what's happening. But to be honest, I'm not that. I'm totally not a pro wrestling head. Of course, I'm respecting the whole thing, the whole pro wrestling thing, because it's the unbreakable element of JMMA. This is the roots of JMMA, and we all know how the pro wrestling thing was important in for example in Pride and Heroes. Yeah. And this is the whole thing. But this was the disclaimer of our talk. And when we are talking about this card, you said Kaito against Masaki Noiri. This is the one of the greatest matchups in this.
Because this entire week I've been doing this whole covering, talking to people. The thing with Karev, the name that everybody says that I heard constantly is, oh, you can't. Nori is gonna blow you away. Like, there are so many Nori fans, and apparently also Bronx from UFC is a Nori fan. So like, all I have in my mind now besides Takeru Tenshin is just waiting to see Nori come out and fight. So I'm legitimately like, people have made me cannot wait. Kan Nakamura, Pettis, I'm looking forward to, but like, I'm like, the Nori Kaito fight, I was like, don't care, until all these people started saying like, oh, Nori's gonna blow your mind away.
They are right in some way, because I remember Noiri is a legend. He's only 29, but he's already a legend of Japanese kickboxing because he achieved lots of titles. He also was succeed in the old K1. He was fighting in the old K1. I don't know if you remember that FEG introduced the 63 kilo weight class, and they had some. I think it was 2 or 3 Grand Prix. So at least two was the Japanese Grand Prix, and it was really, really, amazing. It was very high level, and the guys, majority of the guys were very young. They were just, they were beginning their pro careers. They were K1 Koshin veterans, majority of them, from what I remember. And then Noiri, the K1 has ended. Noiri went to Glory. He won the tournament, the Japanese Road to Glory tournament, and then he achieved the final of the Glory 8-man Glory tournament, the Worldwide Glory tournament. He lost. You can guess what was his final opponent in Glory that he lost with.
Oh, fuck.
Japanese kickboxer, very well known from the different reasons. From what?
Oh, you got me some man who's famous for different reasons. Not Taiga. We're not. No. That's,
Kubo.
I'm trying to think of like. Oh, sorry.
Yuta Kubo.
Oh, Yuta Kubo. Okay. Actually, thank you for bringing up Yuta Kubo. So I want to also ask you as well, because we got a few more minutes. There's a few names on this card. I'm actually surprised that didn't make it. You know, I'm surprised we don't have Cozy. We don't have Taiga. Kubo, I can understand after the whole thing with the pro wrestling and Shibatar and all that thing. Here Ren Hiramoto is not kickboxing, so I'm not surprised about that. Hiroya, not kind of surprised. But like, are there any names that you were like, oh, I kind of figured that they would put that person on this card, either from K1 or from Rise/Ryzen? And also, I want to also ask in addition, there's no women's no Joshi kickboxing.
Yeah. But if because K1 has its only female event next weekend, the week after the match. But if not this, I would definitely see Kana with some Rise girl, definitely. But this is the only thing I think this is the only, for me, in my opinion, this is the only thing for female divisions that would be introduced during the match. But if there's someone's missing in on the cards, to be honest, I don't think that I would add someone. Maybe if I would search the bases with and the list of fighters, I would maybe find someone. But this card looks really impressive.
And so with that being said, one last question.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
maybe I would see Kyotaro as a old K1s, Kyotaro and Kido as a old K1s, you know, maybe not successors, but guys who fought there. But it's not a very necessary thing in my opinion. In my opinion, this card is amazing, and it has not anything weak on it. We can talk lots of things about the heavyweights, but hey, there are heavyweights. One punch can knock you out. So I expect lots of actions from this. More from the Saptari, because Sina is an exciting fighter, but his fights were unequal because in one fight, for example, with I think it was against Aitaka, he can do the comeback of the year, or one of the most important comebacks of the years in all world kickboxing. It was last year.
Yes.
And then he can go to the ring and make a shitty fight. Yeah. So you can expect everything from the Sina Karimian, everything.
So last question I have is any last thoughts, you know, on Takeru, Tenshin, the match, anything, you know, is there, if you want to rant on a Biba TV, you're more welcome to rant on a Biba TV if you want to as well. I want to give you the last, the floor is yours.
Okay, about one thing, or maybe a couple of things about the main event. We have to know that the one thing is that Takeru's was injured a couple of times, and he had to pull off his fights a couple of times. And there's also one thing. What's important? His weight cut, because he gained some weight, and right now he's 60 kilo fighter, and to go to the 58 kilo, he will cut 2 more kilograms, and then he can't gain the weight because they have additional weigh-in the day of the event. So this will be a slightly Tenshin's advantage, because he's natural. He's maybe not. I don't know if he's natural, but 58 kilo is his weight. Of course, Takeru will be a bit bigger, but the weight cut factor can be not necessary, but it's possible. It's a possible factor of this fight. And what's more about the Habima TV, my opinion is that we have to solve the problem as a foreign fans. We have to have our ways to fix the situation, and hope that everything will be fine. To be honest, I don't have a VPN. I did not pay $40 because it's too uncertain if the whole thing will be working. So we are right now. We are going to the time machine, going back to the 2007, and we are searching some other sources, maybe Chinese, maybe from other country, but we will have to have a hope. Yeah. Personally, I will be in Belgium in the hotel because we have MMA Bushido event this on Sunday. So I will on Saturday's night I will probably watch KSW, and then I will go sleep, and then I will wake up at 5:30 and start to dig the darkest places in the internet, in the Chinese internet.
Gonna sell the 70s.
Yes. And I hope that we will all.
Well, have you heard it? But it came out that I think a portion of the card might be on YouTube on a BMOO's TV. That's what I read today. Up until I think Suzuki's fight, they said would be on YouTube. I think so. That would imply that everything before that.
You know what? I have to open the bout order because it's
the beginning fight, like the second. I think it's the second or third match, if I remember correctly.
Yes. The first match is Ryujin Nasukawa against Ryo Kubo.
That may not even make like the actual air that because they're promoting as opening match. So sometimes they don't even air those. That may not even make tape.
Okay, we have Ryujin Nasukawa against Ryo Kubo, Masahiko Suzuki against Akihiro Kaneka. I'm shocked that they put this fight as an opener, but you know what it reminds? This reminds me the old school JMMA times when there was a Dynamite in 2020, also known as Shockwave, and you know who was opening the whole card? Vanderlei Silva.
Well, my theory is that Suzuki and forgot who. Sorry, oh my god, my brain just shut down. Who's his opponent again?
Kaneko.
Akihiro
Kaneko.
Yeah, Kaneko and Suzuki both deliver an exciting fight.
Yes,
it's kind of like
one of the best matchups as well
Yeah.
on this card.
because if you look, because then if you see like in the middle of the card is the heavyweight matches, and then they and then I think it's after that is Pettis and then Nakamura. So I think they're trying to balance the cards so that you do have like after Suzuki, I think is Shiro, and let's be honest, I know Shiro is great, but
Yes.
Shiro is as exciting as he's as good as he's so technical that's almost dull sometimes to watch.
Yes, definitely. Shiro is more like a technical, tactical fighter.
Yeah.
Very inconvenient, as we could see in his some of his last fights. But he shocked the world, and when he knocked out, I think it was Rui Abata, yes, and he knocked him out by a high kick. And I wrote in Twitter, if Shiro is knocking out his opponent, it had to be event of the year. I hope that I was wrong, because the potential event of the year, kickboxing event of the year, combat sports event of the year is potential on Sunday.
So before we go, Daniel, I just want to give you an opportunity to plug everything you're doing, and where can all the peeps follow you?
Could you repeat?
I'm sorry. I'm using too much American lingo. Where can everybody follow you, and what are you doing right now?
I was thinking this is it, but I wanted to be sure. Okay. Follow me on Twitter. You can find me by my personals, my first letter from the name and whole surname, DZIUBICKI. This is my Twitter account. You can also find me on the Instagram, but there are less English related things. Daniel double, I don't know how to say, it's not minus, but this is a floor.
Double floor. Underscore. We say underscore.
Yeah, double floor, as I could say, D. And you can check all the latest results, even if you are not Polish and not a Polish speaker, on MadFight, madfight.pl, because we are covering all of the major J-Kick events, and also majority of Eurokick events. And what I can say more, I'm also writing the articles on mma.pl, where I'm writing about Rizin, and also you can hear me as a commentator during the Votore events. This is the Polish Vale-Tudo fighting division, and during some other fight events, both in Polish and English. And I think that's all. I'm wishing you and all of the We Are Rising podcast public the magnificent Sunday and unforgettable Sunday. And let's hope that everyone will be satisfied, and this event will cause that some fighters will get some boost in the popularity of Japan, and there will be some, as you said, maybe it's the end of the one era, but it's the beginning of the new era, and there will be some kind of torch passing during this event. Let's hope everything will be fine, and that's all from me.